My husband became vegetative after a car crash, yet his mother would rather let him die than pay for his treatment. Heartbroken for my husband, I exhausted all my savings, borrowed from every relative on my side, even took out loan shark debts to save him, and succeeded. The first thing he did after waking up, demand a divorce, claiming he'd died once and now wanted to follow his heart to find true love. Only then did I discover the crash happened while he was buying Valentine's gifts to impress his mistress. If I could do it over, I'd call my mother-in-law, and she'd say, "I don't have money, he's your husband, if he dies, you'll be a widow, so go ahead and mourn him." Holding the phone to the doctor, I said, "We're out of money, pull the plug, we've agreed not to save him. Is this Yang Wei's family? This is Jiangyi Hospital. He's been in a severe car accident and is currently in critical care. Please come to the hospital immediately, we need family consent for treatment." When I opened my eyes again, time had rewound to the moment I received the hospital call about my husband's car accident. In my previous life, when the hospital called, I rushed over without even tying my shoelaces. After 2 days of emergency treatment, doctors declared brain death. Continuing treatment would only mean exorbitant medical bills. The best possible outcome would be him becoming vegetative, kept alive by machines while waiting for a miracle. No one could stand by and watch their life partner die before their eyes without lifting a finger to help in such a situation. Without hesitation, I chose to continue the life-saving efforts, pouring every last penny I had into the medical treatment. Obviously, the little money I had was just a drop in the bucket. Yang Wei is a mama's boy. The house we live in is under his mother's name, and he gives her most of his monthly income. I begged my mother-in-law to pay for his treatment. After all, there are countless cases of coma patients waking up. No amount of money is more important than a human life. But what shocked me most was her response. "Where would an old woman like me get money? He's your husband, not mine. Save him yourself if you want. I've got no money to give, just this one life to take." I never imagined she'd say something so heartless. They say no parent is without fault, but this, what's worse, Yang Wei was always a mama's boy who obeyed her every word. How could she bear to let him die? I thought she was just making empty threats, but my mother-in-law actually followed through. She feigned illness, staying home stewing pigeons every day instead of going to the hospital. My heart sank for Yang Wei. His own mother would rather watch him die than spend money to save him. Back then, I didn't know he was keeping a mistress, let alone that the car accident happened while he was buying her a Qixi festival gift. Seeing his mother only cared about money while ignoring his life, I was utterly heartbroken. After grieving for so long, I spent every last penny I had to save him. When the money ran out, I swallowed my pride and borrowed from my parents and relatives, even resorting to loan sharks. After all, nothing else matters when life hangs in the balance. I'll borrow first. Once he wakes up, he can retrieve the money he left with his mother. Whatever's still missing, we'll work together to repay. As long as we're alive, we can always earn the money back. Every day I'd bring him nutritional porridge at the hospital on schedule, massage him as the doctor recommended, and keep him company with conversation, hoping he'd wake up soon. Persistence paid off. After 6 months of my care, Yang Wei miraculously regained consciousness, and I was overjoyed. But the first thing he did upon waking was to ask me for a divorce. I was thunderstruck, completely dumbfounded, thinking he must still be disoriented from waking up. Then he said that after facing death, he realized life's too short to keep suppressing his feelings. He no longer wanted our lukewarm relationship and was determined to pursue true love. Never did I imagine that exhausting everything to save him would be reduced to our lukewarm relationship, in his words. This sudden blow was unbearable, yet I clung to hope, rationalizing that his harsh words came from post-illness mood swings. To my horror, he started getting physical with me. After that first slap, the domestic violence never stopped. He even had the audacity to bring his mistress into our home. That's when it finally hit me. He'd been seeing her for a long time. The car crash happened because his mistress was furious he hadn't divorced me yet. He was driving while trying to placate her and buy gifts, lost focus, and rammed into a truck. Humiliated beyond endurance, I agreed to the divorce. During the divorce, he promised to repay the money I borrowed to save his life, but right after the divorce, he did a complete 180, claiming the debt was mine to pay since I was the borrower. He even said he never asked to be saved, so why should he foot the bill? Why should he repay a single penny when I took out all these loans without his consent? That's when I realized he'd tampered with the divorce agreement. He took advantage of my emotional turmoil over his affair. I was so desperate to finalize the divorce that I overlooked the fine print. He set me up with several traps, and I walked right into them. I never imagined someone could stoop so low, especially toward the wife who once saved his life. That massive debt from saving his life ended up squarely on my shoulders. And Yang Wei is such a mama's boy. The house we live in is under his mother's name, and he hands over most of his salary to her every month. I didn't get a single cent from the divorce settlement, leaving me completely unable to pay off my mounting debts. The moment my relatives found out about the divorce, they came knocking for repayment. Some of that money was even borrowed by my parents on my behalf. They wouldn't stop hounding my folks. Our home became a daily scene of debt collectors making a scene. My mother, who has heart problems, was hospitalized multiple times from the stress, while my father grew increasingly volatile from the shame he felt in front of relatives. In a fit of rage, I once grabbed a knife and went after Yang Wei. I missed him but got arrested instead, ended up serving 15 days in administrative detention. My home was torn apart and plunged into utter chaos, powerless to change the situation. I drowned in daily tears, developed severe depression, and jumped to my death within a year of divorce. Meanwhile, Yang Wei, who'd been diagnosed with infertility, married his pregnant mistress and welcomed a healthy baby boy. My mother-in-law was overjoyed. The whole family built their happiness on my tragedy, living happily ever after. Their family had gone too far, even heaven couldn't stand it anymore, which is why I was given this second chance at life. So when the call came, instead of rushing to the hospital, I gave the doctor my mother-in-law's number. Through tears, I claimed to be out of town and on my way, insisting my mother-in-law should sign first. Not a single penny will come from me this lifetime. After hanging up with the hospital, I immediately called my mother-in-law. She was sobbing and yelling at me. "Your husband's in a car accident and needs emergency care. How can you still be away on business? I'll go sign the papers to get him treated. But you need to come back right now with money. I don't have a cent on me." I could hear the panic in her voice, followed by the sound of a table crashing to the floor. She was genuinely worried about her son's life, but she also knew she could count on me to foot the bill. In my previous haste to rush to the hospital, I'd completely missed these telling details. "Mom, you pay first. I'll have Yang Wei reimburse you later. All my bank cards are with him. I don't have any cash on me right now." She cries. I cry. What's the big deal? Everyone knows how to cry. But if she thinks I'm paying a dime, dream on. I ransacked the house, gathered every single bank card, and stashed them all in my bag. Then, through tears, I went to the police and traffic officers to retrieve Yang Wei's dashcam footage from the accident, made copies, and used my ID to reclaim his smashed phone from the cops before taking it to a repair shop. Only then, eyes red and swollen, did I rush to the hospital. He'd been in emergency care for over 3 hours by then. I wasn't there. His mother had already paid the first round of bills, and he'd been moved to the ICU. She was still waiting at the doors when she saw me. Without hesitation, she slapped me across the face. "Your own husband is fighting for his life, and you show up this late. What kind of wife are you? Listen here, if anything happens to Wei, you'll pay for it." After all these years, I've grown accustomed to her habit of casually slapping labels on me. I stayed silent and let her rant. Arguing back would only fuel her fire. Compared to the domestic violence in my past life, this slap meant nothing. Seeing I didn't argue back, my mother-in-law relaxed slightly but kept a stern face. "You stay here to take care of Wei. I'm going home. I just paid 10,000 yuan. That should cover today. Remember to return the money when Wei wakes up." "Mom, Wei's fighting for his life. How can you think about money now?" My mind's a complete mess. Wei always managed his own finances. I don't even know where he kept it. I admit I did it on purpose. Made such a scene deliberately so every doctor and nurse in the hospital would hear, making sure everyone knew it was his mother hoarding the money instead of helping him, not me. Gossip and online bullying. I've had enough of that in my past life. I refuse to relive it this time. "Mom, Wei's salary has mostly gone to you over the years, while mine covered our household expenses. How about this? You return his savings for his medical bills, and I'll use my income to care for him. With his condition this severe, he'll need months of proper recovery. I'll personally tend to him, his money for treatment, mine for daily needs. Does that work for you?" Relatives of patients crowded at the hospital entrance, always eager for drama. At my words, every head turned toward my mother-in-law. Some even muttered, "These days, a married man still handing over his paycheck. How's that family supposed to survive? Poor girl, getting married just to end up supporting her husband. No wonder young women these days don't want to get married." The mother-in-law was fuming. "What do you know? I raised my son from childhood, and now that he's grown, what's wrong with him letting his mother manage his salary? That's called gratitude, stop talking nonsense. The mother-in-law grumbled that they were just jealous because they couldn't bear sons of their own, then stormed off in a huff. She was absolutely certain I'd save her son as long as I was around. I didn't talk back, just stood there quietly. After all, in the ICU where no family stays, they wouldn't declare brain death until tomorrow. The doctor offered some comforting words, suggesting I go rest and keep my phone on in case they needed to reach family. Right after leaving the hospital, I took my husband's phone to compile all his call records with that mistress. Turns out I actually know the woman he's cheating with, his colleague Su Fong. Their explicit chat history revealed Su Fong was already 1 month pregnant. I still have her on WeChat. Last time when Yang Wei was hospitalized, she visited as company representative, and like a fool, I thought she was a decent colleague. She doesn't realize I know about their affair. Still counting on me to bankroll saving her baby's father, I quickly snapped a photo of Yang Wei hooked up to tubes in ICU yesterday and posted it on Moments with the caption, "Don't worry, I'll convince mom to use your savings for treatment, you'll pull through, hang in there, honey." Visible only to Su Fong and my mother-in-law, I deliberately showed them my determination to save Yang Wei, just so I could keep playing dirty and withhold the payment. The next day, I arrived at the hospital way before they called me. I knew that guy was about to be brain dead any minute now. Sure enough, shortly after I arrived, the ICU doctor rushed out in a panic. The situation was critical. Emergency surgery was needed immediately, with no guarantee of success. Same old story, just like last time. The doctor called me in for a talk. Through tears, I begged them to do everything possible to save him, pleading for just a few hours grace to pay. All my husband's money is with his mother, I explained. Let me discuss it with her. We'll pay the emergency fees the moment she brings the money. Right then, I called my mother-in-law in front of them, only for her to hang up on me immediately, so I used the hospital's landline to call her again. She picked up instantly. Before I could speak, her panicked voice crackled through. "Doctor, how's my son now? He'll pull through, won't he? Awei's clinically brain dead. The hospital needs our decision. If we want resuscitation, we must pay the emergency fees now. Mom, please bring Yang Lin's money to the hospital immediately to save him." Sobbing uncontrollably, I cut her off mid-sentence and called my mother-in-law right there at the hospital nurses' station. Doctors, nurses, and passing patients surrounded us. Several had already discreetly started recording on their phones. Hearing I was at the hospital, my mother-in-law audibly relaxed on the other end of the line. She knew me too well, certain I'd never abandon Yan Lin in such circumstances, and she was absolutely right. In my past life, this exact manipulation trapped me until I'd backed myself into a corner with no way out. Just as I thought. "Xin, what are you implying? At your young age, you're already trying to mooch off the elderly. Yang Wei is your husband, not mine. It's your duty as his wife to sell everything and borrow money to save him, not mine. An old woman with no earning capacity. If you're broke, go take out loans. At your age, are you really afraid you can't repay them?" The moment I asked her for money, she flew into a rage with that shrewish act. Though I couldn't put the call on speaker, all recordings can be subpoenaed as evidence if this goes to court. I've taken enough hits in this lifetime, it's their turn now. "Mom, are you saying you won't release the money Awei left with you for his medical treatment? Where would an old woman like me get money? Let me make this clear, not a penny to my name, just this one life. If anything happens to Awei, I'll die with him. You can just wait to become his grieving widow. A widow. Once he's dead, I'll get myself 10 boyfriends and turn his grave into the greenest pasture. Widowhood, that's just his pipe dream." "Alright, I understand." Rubbing my bloodshot eyes while still on the phone, I sobbed uncontrollably at the doctor. "Doctor, my mother-in-law says we can't afford the treatment. We've agreed, just remove the breathing tube." To see him off properly, I requested permission from the doctors to personally remove his breathing tubes in the ICU and accompany him on his final journey. "Sign here." When the doctor slid the consent form toward me, I hung up the phone and swiftly signed my name, agreeing to discontinue treatment. I followed the doctor into the ICU and carefully removed each tube connected to Yang Wei's body. I watched coldly as the numbers on Yang Wei's heart monitor flatlined. The sweet vengeance drowned out the terrors of my past life. The devil was finally gone from this world. I knew my mother-in-law was rushing to the hospital, but it was too late. I even sent her a photo of Yang Wei with his tubes removed via WeChat, holding on to his money instead of saving him. "Are you happy now? You killed your own son, even as a ghost. He'll never forgive you." after sending the message. The final act was complete. I slumped silently outside the ICU, listening as the doctor pronounced Yang Wei's death before they covered him with a white sheet. Who told you to pull out the tubes? Just as they were wheeling the body to the morgue, the mother-in-law arrived in a fury. Unfortunately, she was a step too late. The moment she saw the corpse, the mother-in-law turned deathly pale, froze in shock, then collapsed to the ground as her legs gave way. She stood frozen for 3 full minutes before throwing herself onto Yang Wei's lifeless body, wailing hysterically, "My boy, how could you leave me like this? How could you abandon your mother alone in this world?" The moment her tears subsided, she suddenly bared her teeth and lunged at me. I sidestepped just in time to avoid her attack. "You Xian, you deliberately let my son die. That's murder. Now he's gone. Give me back my son. Pay with your life." My mother-in-law was acting like a shrew, making a scene and yelling, "Was it me who gave up? Mom, wasn't it you? I called you right in front of doctors and nurses, with dozens of witnesses. You're the one who refused, saying no money, just take my life, that you'd die with Yang Wei if he passed, leaving me a widow. You withheld the money that could have saved him, killed him, made me a widow. Why don't you go join him in death? Give me back my husband, give him back." What a joke. I made call after call. Even messaged her on WeChat, all for this exact moment. So what if I'm making a scene? If she lies, I lie too. Fight fire with fire. Last time I was too concerned about saving face, that's why their whole family walked all over me. Through tears, I played my WeChat messages complaining to my mother-in-law about abandoning my husband, along with our call recordings, for all the gathered patients' families and medical staff to hear. "Happy now, Mom," I was sobbing uncontrollably, tears streaming down my face, while my mother-in-law turned even paler. She thought she had me wrapped around her finger, convinced I'd move heaven and earth to save Yang Wei even if she didn't contribute a single cent. In our past life, she kept egging me on to borrow from my maternal relatives, claiming she'd already tried every Yang family connection with no luck. This lifetime, even during our fiercest arguments, she never fails to remind me to scrape together every penny by borrowing from my parents' side. After all her scheming, she never saw it coming when I suddenly changed the game. You. The mother-in-law was left speechless, gasping for breath as if choking on her words. "Mom, Yang Wei's earnings all these years went straight to you, yet when he needed help, you wouldn't spare a single cent. If Yang Wei knew this, his ghost would haunt you forever. You killed my husband. I'll never let you off the hook for this." With that, there was no time to waste. I still had plenty to settle. The remaining assets between Yang Wei and me, the insurance payout, even the money he spent on his mistress, every last penny needed to be accounted for. I've arranged a lawyer and walked out immediately. Won't bother with Yang Wei's aftermath either. Mourning that kind of man would only disgust myself. After returning home, I had the renovation company remove all the old furniture and demolished every fixed decoration left behind. The house isn't mine, but my parents paid for every bit of the renovation. There's no way I'm letting others benefit from it. After finishing up, I went back to my parents' place. My parents couldn't understand why I acted this way. By all rights, I should be grieving Yang Wei's death, but I seemed completely unfazed, even happy. I couldn't explain further. I just told them Yang Wei had been cheating. He died in that car accident while buying gifts for his mistress. That's all I said, asking them to trust me. I'm not some heartless ingrate. When my parents heard about Yang Wei's infidelity, they were furious and immediately vowed to seek justice, standing firmly by my side without hesitation. Even in my darkest moments when the Yang family and relatives drove me to despair, they never once uttered a harsh word against me. Yang Wei was just one of the culprits. His mother and that homewrecker are equally guilty. I won't let a single one of them get away with this. The next day, my mother-in-law kept calling me like a madwoman. I only picked up after dozens of calls, deliberately taking my time. "You wretched bitch, you Xian, are you dead? How dare you ignore my calls?" came the shrill screech from the other end. "It's your son who's dead. The one you killed. Have you forgotten so soon, you?" The mother-in-law was fuming with rage. "Where are all the household items? Who wrecked the house? Was it you? That was mine and Yang Wei's home. Now that you've killed Yang Wei, why would I leave anything for a murderer like you? How I handle my belongings is my own business. The property is under my name. It's my house. What does this have to do with you? Get this straight. I only let you live here out of charity, and you dare destroy my home," Madame Wang declared with righteous indignation. I was so angry I had to laugh. While it's true my mother-in-law paid for the house in full, At least half that money came from Yang Wei's salary that he handed over to her during our relationship. Legally, Yang Wei's money has nothing to do with me since we're not married, but now his mother claims she's broke after buying this house and refuses to pay the bride price. As their only daughter, my parents have always doted on me, not wanting to cause conflict over the bride price. They not only waived it but even offered to pay for our renovations. My mother-in-law kept insisting back then that this apartment belonged to me and Yang Wei, claiming she was just the name on the deed while we had full rights, that we could register, rent, or sell it as we pleased. I blame my younger self for being so naive and blindly devoted to Yang Wei, falling right into that wicked mother-son duo's trap. I took a deep breath, struggling to keep my emotions in check. Getting worked up over people like them, what a complete waste of energy. I don't give a damn about the house, keep it till you die, I said coldly, knowing my mother-in-law's temperament. I'd never get a square inch of this house, so why waste my breath fighting over it? The real tragedy is clinging to cold, lifeless wealth with no one to care for you in old age or inherit a thing. How dare you curse me? My mother-in-law shrieked in outrage. I ignored her and continued. But my family paid for the renovation and furnished the place with appliances. Don't I have every right to take them when I leave? You heartless bitch, you Xin. After I bought this house for you to live in, you turn your back the moment my son's gone. Aren't you afraid of divine retribution? Not at all, I sneered. The lightning strike won't hit me. Seems karma's already claimed its rightful target. What did you say? Are you calling my son's death some kind of punishment? Shouldn't you know this better than anyone? You're the one who got him killed. Listen well, you Xin, my son is dead, and you won't get away with this. The mother-in-law slammed the phone down. I stared at my phone with a cold smirk. Bring it on, you wish, don't push your luck. That same afternoon, my parents were watching TV in the living room when their expression suddenly changed. They loved watching our local channel's mediation show, Sister Fan to the Rescue, classic neighborhood drama. Sheen, come quick, my mom called out urgently. I was in the living room texting the insurance company about Yang Wei's car accident compensation. Since Yang Wei was primarily at fault, the compensation wouldn't be substantial. Hearing my mom's voice, I looked up and saw my mother-in-law on the TV screen. She's being interviewed by reporters. The news ticker at the bottom left still displayed the headline, "After their son's car accident." The daughter-in-law not only refused medical treatment but also trashed the house. My son died in a car crash 2 days ago. His wife was too cheap to pay for treatment and just let him die at the hospital. Now she won't even lift a finger for his funeral. I'm at my wit's end. That's why I came to you for help. The elderly woman sobbed pitifully, her grief-stricken appearance genuinely heartbreaking. Is she staying away out of guilt? Sister Fan asked. The mother-in-law sobbed uncontrollably as she spoke. The moment my son passed away, she immediately demanded the house. That property was bought with my life savings from decades of hard work, paid in full under my name. When I refused to transfer it to her, she turned on me instantly. She stripped the house bare, taking all the furniture and appliances, even vandalizing the place. Her grief intensified as she continued, collapsing into racking sobs. Aunt Fan offered some comforting words before asking, "What exactly do you need our help with today, ma'am?" "I want my daughter-in-law to arrange my son's funeral properly," she pleaded, "and to restore our home's interior and return all the furniture and appliances she took." "All right, we'll contact your daughter-in-law first," Sister Fan said while pulling out her phone, and moments later, my phone rang. At the same time, my parents' phones started ringing simultaneously. My parents each answered their calls. My mom, "That's not what happened. How could our Sheen possibly do such a thing? This is slander." My dad, "Don't you know what kind of person Sheen is? You know exactly what you've done. Keep pushing like this, and I won't spare the dead any dignity. I'll expose you to the entire nation." My father was absolutely furious, but his self-restraint kept him from publicly shaming the deceased in front of the media. Clearly, the mother-in-law's actions had already sparked a public outcry. No need to think, my reputation's already in tatters anyway. A bitter irony washed over me. In my past life, the Yangs ruined my reputation and destroyed my family over debts. Now that Yang Wei's dead in this life, they still want to cyberbully me into reliving that nightmare. Hilarious. She actually thought I was completely unprepared. Now it's her turn to learn what karma feels like. So after the show crew called twice, I picked up. Hello you Xin, we're from Auntie Fan's help desk, your mother-in-law. I saw the live broadcast on TV. I'm heading to Yang Wei's Memorial Hall right now." With that, I hung up immediately, making trouble. As if I don't know how, I put down my phone, gathered my things in the room, and got ready to leave. "Don't worry, I've got this," I reassured them. "Let me come with you. What if you get taken advantage of alone?" My dad simply wouldn't rest easy with me going solo, too. "The production crew will be there too. I'll be fine, just wait for the news broadcast." I refused to let them worry about me like they did in my past life. I opened my front door. Several neighbors were crowded around the doorway. They quickly scattered when they saw me coming out. As they left, the group of neighbors remained clustered nearby. They scurried away the moment they saw me coming out. As they retreated, a few gossipy old women muttered, "That's the wicked daughter-in-law, no manners at all. And to think this family's supposed to be educated, how could they raise such an ill-bred girl? What do you call it, a wolf in scholar's clothing?" Their words made my blood boil. My parents were just too reasonable, letting those shameless yangs walk all over them. I'm not wasting time defending myself now. The truth will come out soon enough. I hailed a cab and arrived at my destination. The memorial hall was quite crowded. Word must have spread about the TV crew coming. Aside from relatives and friends, there were plenty of curious onlookers too. The moment I stepped inside, the whole hall erupted. You actually showed up. How dare you? If it weren't for you, Yang Wei would still be alive. If Mother hadn't reached out through the show, would you have been heartless enough to let Yang Wei pass without even saying goodbye? After all, Yang Wei and his mother treated you so well, you couldn't even give him a child in over 3 years of marriage. Yet he never held it against you. How dare you turn your back on them now? The entire Yang family was ganging up to berate me. Truth be told, the Yangs never got along with their relatives. Yang's father died young, and his mother was a scheming oddball who'd never supported her own in-laws. Even her own family couldn't stand her. Today, with the film crew around and respect for the deceased as their excuse, they all jumped at the chance to parade their fake sympathy and righteousness. Some were just here to see the old hag get her comeuppance. After all, she never supported her in-laws, and now her daughter-in-law is giving her a taste of her own medicine. What goes around comes around. I glanced at Yang Wei's coffin and caught sight of his mistress, Su Feng, a colleague of his, who shot me a venomous look before quickly lowering her head. No one knew about her shameful affair with Yang Wei. She was attending the funeral merely as a co-worker. I'll never forget how she strutted into our home in my past life, calling me a barren hen who hogged the roost without laying eggs. Yang Wei and I have been married for 3 years without children, but it's not my fault. He has oligospermia, making conception difficult. The doctor suggested IVF, but my mother-in-law objected due to the high cost. She'd also heard baseless rumors that IVF babies are inferior. Besides, the doctor said it was challenging, not impossible. So she insisted we keep trying naturally and reconsider when we're older. Eventually someone did get pregnant, just not me. It was Su Feng. I still remember vividly how arrogantly my mother-in-law behaved after Su Feng got pregnant, claiming her son was perfectly fine and it was just barren land at fault. The more I think about it, the more bitterly ironic it becomes. Slap. I slapped her right across the face in front of everyone. Su Feng was stunned by my slap. Several of Yang Wei's colleagues in the morning hall were equally shocked by my actions. "What did you hit her for?" His mother shielded Su Feng, glaring at me furiously. Yang Wei was a mama's boy who told his mother everything. She must have known about his affairs long ago. My mother-in-law even supported it, saying it's perfectly normal for men to have affairs, and if they can even get the other woman pregnant, that just proves what capable men they are. So what if I hit her? I sneered. Since when do we need to pick an auspicious day to beat up a homewrecker? How dare you spout such nonsense? The mother-in-law became hysterical. My son is already dead, and you still slander him like this. You Xian, have you no conscience at all? Who dares say I'm slandering him? That was my husband. He loved me dearly. It was this homewrecker who seduced him and got him killed. I yanked my mother-in-law away from Su Feng, my hand trembling as I pointed at her with a look of utter devastation. I knew better than anyone. Publicly shaming the deceased at a funeral would only backfire on me. In Chinese tradition, respecting the dead holds the same unshakable sanctity as filial piety. Both are supreme virtues. As someone already notorious, the only way to turn things around was to target the mistress. Not only that, I had to play the role of a naive, love-struck fool to make the audience frustrated with my weakness. The more they pitted me, the more they'd dig into our story. A man's affair can't withstand scrutiny, especially when the other woman is already pregnant. It's all because of this homewrecker who seduced my husband. I checked the dash cam. She kept demanding gifts from him and threw a tantrum while he was driving. That's why he got distracted and crashed. You killed my husband. Clinging to Yang Wei's coffin, I wailed. How could fate be so cruel to me, widowed so young because of that woman? She caused your accident, and your mother hoarded your money instead of saving you. When I see them, I want to skin them alive and drink their blood." Then, like a madwoman, I pulled out my phone and shoved it toward the camera, scrolling through my WeChat messages with my mother-in-law for all to see. Anyone could imagine how explosive these messages would be. After showing them, I played the dashcam footage from my phone, screaming hysterically, "Look, this homewrecker killed him. She knew he was driving but still picked a fight, causing the crash. You're a murderer. I'll sue you for his life." Of course she won't actually pay with her life, but she'll pay dearly. After all my husband did for you, buying gifts, sending money all these years, you let him die when he needed emergency care. How dare you show your face at his funeral, you cold-blooded killer. What? Upon hearing that Yang Wei's car accident resulted from an argument with Su Fang, the mother-in-law trembled uncontrollably, staring at her in disbelief. Is she telling the truth? With irrefutable evidence, I shoved the dashcam footage in the mother-in-law's face, forcing her to watch it repeatedly until she snapped. In a complete mental breakdown, she lunged at Su Fang and slapped her. "You homewrecker, how dare you kill my son?" That single slap sent the live broadcast crew into absolute chaos. The nosy relatives finally got the drama they were waiting for, now blaming the mother-in-law for failing to discipline her son and letting that homewrecker get him killed. The next day, #mother-in-law enabled son's affair, only for the mistress to get him killed. #update to daughter-in-law smashed house instead of saving son after car crash. After encouraging son's affair, mistress got him killed yet was invited to funeral, while daughter-in-law refused to attend after trashing home. The internet exploded over this update, with everyone cheering my smashing spree. Why bother saving such a scumbag? Yanking out his breathing tube for a souvenir photo would have been more satisfying. Some even claimed only mistresses would defend the cheating husband by bashing the wronged wife. Meanwhile, I've formally submitted all evidence to Su Fang, demanding she return every penny of the marital assets between Yang Wei and me. After repairing Yang Wei's phone, everything became crystal clear. Call logs, WeChat history, all those shady online transactions, leaving zero room for doubt. Su Fang lost the lawsuit and was ordered to return our marital assets totaling 320,000 yuan, but she'd already squandered all the money. How could she repay it? Just like in my past life, I hired local thugs to harass her daily with the court's judgment notice demanding repayment. After learning Su Fang caused Yang Wei's fatal car accident, my mother-in-law couldn't stand the sight of her. But since Su Fang was carrying Yang Wei's unborn grandson, she stopped giving Su Fang trouble. Her desire for a grandchild made her temporarily back off. They even reached a private agreement. Just wait until the baby is born, hand the child over to her to raise, and let Su Fang get married. Her grandson was her only solace, so every time I went to demand the money, my shameless mother-in-law would block me, throwing tantrums and rolling on the ground. Even local thugs wouldn't dare lay a finger on an old woman. Collecting the debt became increasingly difficult. Using my money to raise some mistress's child, what were they thinking? Since Su Fang refused to cooperate, I had no choice but to play hardball. I made 200 copies of the court summons, hired investigators to track down Su Fang's hometown, and sent 10 people there to distribute the notices with a literal song and dance. Su Fang's rural village was full of traditional farmers who valued face above all. The public humiliation of the spectacle ensured the whole community knew her business. Mortified beyond words, her elderly parents stormed into the apartment Yang Wei rented for Su Fang, brandishing cleavers. The shock sent Su Fang into premature labor. By the time she reached the hospital, she'd lost both the baby and her uterus. When the grandmother saw the last remaining heir she'd doted on vanish before her eyes, she snatched the kitchen knife from Su Fang's parents and lunged at me. I could have dodged, but chose not to. The blade sliced deep into my shoulder, staining my clothes crimson before I was rushed to the ER. The hospital immediately reported this brazen assault, and the old woman was arrested on the spot. She was ultimately convicted of attempted murder and sentenced to 30 years, nearing 60 years old. Her golden years will now be spent behind bars serving that 3-decade sentence. Su Fang's parents scraped together every penny by borrowing from relatives to repay the court-ordered compensation, then took Su Fang back to their rural hometown. After my mother-in-law got arrested, I sold everything of value in the house and returned to my parents with the money. In my past life, they worried themselves sick over me. This time around, I'll steer clear of toxic men and cherish every moment with my parents. Enjoying the simple joys of family, the end, story 2. When we both fell to the zombie horde together, cradling me in his arms with tears, he whispered how grateful he was to have fought side by side with me through this chaotic world. If there's a next life, I swear I'll find you again, wait for me. When I opened my eyes again, we'd truly returned to the pre-apocalyptic world. Less than 7 days remained before zombies would overrun the National College entrance exam halls. My childhood friend suddenly stood up and pulled my deskmate Xia Xian into a tight embrace. At that moment, I could hear his ecstatic inner monologue, "This lifetime, I'll conquer the apocalypse with my one true love by my side." He publicly defied the teacher to announce his dropout, then took out massive loans to hoard supplies. On the way home from school, he let his sweetheart tear up my exam admission ticket, whispered in my ear with mock mercy, "Su Jingyue, it's not too late to join me now." With a quiet smile, I calmly completed all my exams and finally received the admission letter from Tsinghua University, yet he kept waiting and waiting. Instead of the apocalypse, what came for him was a brutal beating from debt collectors. Year 10 of the apocalypse, the safe haven Huashen and I built with our own hands finally crumbled under the relentless siege of the zombie horde. In our final moments, Huashen held me tight against his chest. A scalding tear fell into the hollow of my shoulder. His voice broke as he spoke. Meeting you and knowing you in this lifetime has been my greatest joy. If we're granted another life, wait for me, I'll find you no matter what." I believed it, and so did the heavens. When I opened my eyes again, I'd returned to 7 days before the apocalypse began. The homeroom teacher was holding the final class meeting at the podium. "Wishing all my students outstanding exam results and admission to your dream schools." The class chuckled in response to their teacher's well wishes before burying their heads in last-minute revision. The ceiling fan whirred overhead, the restless wind, the school uniform clinging to sweaty skin, the faint tang of perspiration lingering after gym class. Not exactly ideal conditions, yet I felt completely at peace, because in 7 days, the exam hall would become ground zero for the zombie outbreak and the world would descend into hell. And now, I might actually have a chance to change all this. While the homeroom teacher was reviewing the final mock exam at the podium, I quietly pulled out my phone and texted my brother who works at the Emergency Management Bureau, asking him to meet me at the bubble tea shop by the school gate after class. Seeing this, my deskmate Xia Xian curled her lips and said sarcastically, "Su Jingyue, I know you're top of the class, but must you play with your phone right now?" Xia Xian and I had never gotten along. I countered with a smirk, "What? Don't tell me you wouldn't want to." Xia Xian's face darkened as she shot me a venomous glare before falling silent. I breathed a sigh of relief after getting my brother's confirmation, then looked up at Huashen sitting by the podium. A quiet anticipation stirred in my heart. We'd fought side by side for a decade in the apocalypse, surviving countless life or death situations and sharing passionate intimacy. What about him? Could he also remember our past life? Under my gaze, Huashen suddenly rose from his slumped position on the desk. The screech of chair legs scraping against marble floors drew the entire class's attention. Oblivious to the commotion, he walked step by step toward me. Then, in one swift motion, he pulled Xia Xian into a trembling embrace. "Xia Xian, I'm so happy to see you again." At the same moment, I could hear his ecstatic inner voice, "Thank God, I actually traveled back before the apocalypse began. Not only do I have ample time to stockpile supplies, but my beloved Xia Xian is still alive. This time, I'll make sure we survive the apocalypse together and rise as the ultimate rulers." As for Su Jingyue, she's decent looking and quite skilled. Well, since she was my wife in a past life, I might as well consider her for the harem, too. Meeting Huashen's indifferent gaze, I realized this wasn't auditory hallucination, it was his unfiltered inner monologue in this very moment. The whistles and cheers in the classroom were piercing my eardrums. The homeroom teacher frowned and snapped, "What's all this racket? Have you all memorized the key concepts?" The crowd reluctantly averted their gazes, yet Huashen kept his arms firmly around Xia Xian. The teacher who'd been turning a blind eye finally lost his temper. "Huashen, are you deaf or what?" Xia Xian froze before snapping back to reality and giving Huashen a slight push. "Classmate Hua, stop this, it's inappropriate." Huashen completely ignored the homeroom teacher's death glare and planted a kiss on her forehead, then he gazed at her with a playful smile. "Well, do you like it?" Xia Xian lowered her eyes shyly, casting a triumphant glance at me with the corner of her eye. She knew I'd had a crush on Huashen before, but that was all in the past. I averted my gaze indifferently, my expression utterly frosty. I'm no longer that 18-year-old Sujin Yue who believed in fairy tale romances. After decades surviving the zombie apocalypse, I've learned to live just fine without Huishen. I just can't make sense of it. The person who was promising eternal love not long ago, now reborn, discards me like trash and embraces another without hesitation. So were those 10 years with me just an act? I just can't figure it out, but one thing's for certain, Huishen had spent too long in the apocalypse, forgetting how to live in a world with normal order. Right now, he's standing ramrod straight, facing off against the homeroom teacher. The inner voice twisted into madness. Damn it, I've had enough of that idiot homeroom teacher, always micromanaging every damn thing, worse than my nagging mom. College entrance exams. In 7 days the zombie apocalypse hits. And the first to die will be those obedient honor students taking their tests. No time for these morons anymore. Gotta rush home to prep for doomsday, stockpile supplies, fortify a safe house. With an arm around Xia Xian's waist, he whispered tenderly, "Do you trust me?" Xia Xian, though Huishen's grades were mediocre, he was blessed with striking good looks, dazed by those shimmering puppy dog eyes gazing intently at her. Xia Xian nodded in a daze. Huishen let out a triumphant laugh and flipped the desk right in front of their homeroom teacher. "You bald bastard, I'm done with this, I quit school." The classroom whispers died out completely. Everyone stared at Huishen in shock, their eyes screaming this guy's lost his damn mind, including the utterly dumbfounded Xia Xian. The table Huishen just overturned was hers. Inside were the limited edition hidden Labubu figurines she'd paid a fortune to have someone proxy buy for her. Now they were trampled multiple times by the furious Huishen, lying in filthy water. Xia Xian was so angry she could practically taste blood, met my amused gaze with perfect timing. She quickly composed herself and looped her arm through Huishen's. 3. Huishen remained oblivious to our little exchange. He scanned the room and sneered contemptuously. "What, surprised? Think I've lost my mind, don't you? You actually believe reading those worthless books can change your fate? Mark my words, when disaster strikes, bookworms like you with no strength to even tie a chicken will be the first to die. Soon, a brand new world will dawn and I shall be its sovereign. These bookworm idiots aren't even worthy of being my teammates in the apocalypse. Just drop dead, all of you." Huishen delivered this declaration with steel in his voice, then strode away with a thoroughly confused Xia Xian in tow. The homeroom teacher trembled with rage, yet remained powerless against him. With the college entrance exams just around the corner, Huishen couldn't care less about any disciplinary actions or criticism. The homeroom teacher certainly wasn't about to stir up trouble either. He stood frozen for a moment before sighing quietly and returning to the podium. It was the class monitor who subtly signaled the other students with a glance. Everyone chimed in to comfort him. "Don't take Huishen seriously, Mr. Li, that guy's always been a loose cannon. You're amazing, you've been like a parent to us, so what if you nag a little?" "Exactly, he was never top of the class anyway, went the athlete route early, so of course he'd given up on academics. We've slaved through 12 years of school just for this moment." The teenager's chattering words of comfort brought tears to the homeroom teacher's eyes. He wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes, revealing a relieved smile. Good children. Stay calm, everyone will surely deliver satisfactory results." I watched quietly. For a fleeting moment, the homeroom teacher's figure on the podium merged with that of a past life. It was the 3rd hour of the zombie outbreak. The exam hall turned into a living hell, filled with screams and wails. Our homeroom teacher, who'd been waiting outside, was the first to notice something wrong. He led a rescue team inside, saving panicked students one after another. Among them was Huishen. But Huishen had forgotten all of that. All he remembered was his homeroom teacher's endless nagging, confiscating his phone, comics, and novels. He only knew his grades were hopeless. No matter how hard he tried, the college entrance exam was beyond reach, so he had to seize this apocalyptic opportunity to make something of himself, even if this opportunity came at the cost of countless bloody lives. 4. On my way home from school, I was racking my brains on how to convince my brother the apocalypse was coming. 2 shadows suddenly fell across my path, blocking the way. It was Huishen and Xia Xian. Huishen probed cautiously. "Sujin Yue, do you believe in the apocalypse?" His expression remained gentle, but the thoughts racing through his mind were terrifying enough to chill one's blood. If Sujin Yue has also been reborn, she'd undoubtedly move heaven and earth to prevent the apocalypse. Such naive mercy. I'll never let her interfere. A fleeting glint of murderous intent flashed through Huishen's eyes. I just find it ridiculous. So the person who stayed by my side in my past life was actually such a selfish little rat. He's quite the actor. isn't he? I sighed softly, looking at him like he was an idiot. Haven't you caused enough scenes in the classroom? What about Aunt Shui if you don't take the college entrance exam? Huishen's expression softened slightly at the mention of his mother. After his father's death, Aunt Shui raised him alone by selling breakfast. The mother and son relied on each other, sharing an exceptionally deep bond. He squinted at me for a long moment, then reluctantly snorted in displeasure after confirming I wasn't actually reborn. Su Jinyue, if you value your life, you'd better skip the college entrance exam in 7 days. Stay home with your parents, sweetheart. I'll come get you when it's time. I've said all there is to say. You're on your own now. Huishen's words sounded so sincere, as if he still retained a shred of conscience toward me. But I knew the truth. What he really valued was our family's privileged access to the safe zone as researchers' dependents. When the apocalypse first broke out, my brother died in the zombie horde while protecting the antivirus serum data. Our family received special treatment from the authorities as a result. And we were among the first evacuated to the safe zone along with Huishen's group. That's where Huishen built his initial network of connections. Now he's unwilling to give up these privileges. I gave a non-committal nod and turned to leave. Xia Xian suddenly rushed over, snatched my bag, deftly found the exam permit, and tore it to shreds in seconds. Shredded paper fluttered to the ground like snow. With arrogance, Xia Xian said, "Huishen, why waste words with this bookworm? Just tear up her exam permit and be done with it. Without the exam admission ticket, let's see how she's going to take the test." Huishen nodded in approval. Truly my favorite, decisive and ruthless, just like me. I was speechless for a moment before asking sincerely, "You can just reprint the admission ticket. Don't tell me you didn't even know that." Their faces froze. Huishen had genuinely forgotten after all this time. As for Xia Xian, her family had long arranged for her to study abroad. She never needed to take the national college entrance exam in the first place. So what? Remember our warning, Su Jinyue. This is your last chance to seek refuge with me. Huishen snorted coldly and strode away with Xia Xian in tow. I called after him, "Huishen, do you really believe the apocalypse is coming?" "Of course," without breaking stride. He answered without hesitation. Then why not warn people and ask for help? If something really happens in 7 days, at least we'll be prepared. Huishen turned to me with a sardonic smile. Do you think anyone would believe that? Besides, fewer competitors mean smoother power grabs later. I said calmly, every life counts. Teachers, classmates, neighbors, they're all living beings around us. Huishen sneered. How naive. He strode away without so much as a backward glance. Xia Xian's figure stiffened momentarily before she turned to give me an inscrutable look. 5. In the bubble tea shop, my brother kept checking his watch with visible agitation. "Jinyue, what on earth was so urgent that you made me come all this way? I've got a ton of work waiting in the lab." Seeing me arrive, he couldn't help muttering under his breath. Without a trace of anger, I threw myself into his arms, tears streaming down uncontrollably. In my past life, I didn't even get to see him one last time. The bureau said he was nearly reduced to mangled bones by zombies. Yet he shielded the precious documents beneath his body, keeping them completely intact. Perhaps Huishen was right. Human nature is inherently selfish, always instinctively choosing what benefits oneself. But there are always exceptions, people whose very souls shine brilliantly. That's just how my brother is, and I trust him completely. My brother was startled to see my tears and asked sternly, "What's wrong? Did someone bully you at school?" I shook my head and wiped away my tears, with a smile. I said, "Bro, what I'm about to tell you might sound crazy, but please believe me, every word is true. In exactly 7 days at 9:56 a.m., examinee number 059634 in Shinji High School C183 exam hall will turn into a zombie. The entire testing room will be infected within 10 minutes, then the whole school. It's not just the exam site. Prada Plaza in the suburbs and Stone Lion Gym downtown will simultaneously experience zombie outbreaks, if things are proceeding as expected. Several carriers are already showing varying degrees of symptoms. Immediate intervention is required." These were the exact details confirmed through multiple official after-action reports from my past life, memorized word for word. A few question marks slowly appeared above my brother's head. He hesitated, then reached out to feel my forehead while muttering to himself, "No fever." Could exam stress have triggered some sort of hysterical episode? I saw this coming, bro. Call your colleagues right now. Ask if their district hospitals are seeing a bizarre surge in rabies cases, patients showing extreme aggression, rapid symptom progression, and dying before treatment can even be administered. I only learned later that the zombie virus has an incubation and evolution period. In its early stages, it lurks in the human body with symptoms indistinguishable from rabies. As the virus mutated through generations, its contagiousness and aggressiveness skyrocketed, becoming the terrifying zombie virus we know today. My brother called his colleague with skepticism, only to receive the exact same response as mine. I proceeded to reveal several future events that only someone who had lived through them could know. Each prediction matched perfectly. My brother's expression grew increasingly grave until he abruptly stood up. "No, I must report this immediately. We can't let what you've described come to pass." Then he let out a heavy sigh, his face clouded with worry. "I can't even begin to imagine the living hell that would be. Jinue, take care of yourself. Time is of the essence. I need to immediately assemble experts and labs to start research." "Wait," I grabbed his sleeve. "Brother, I know the formula for the antiserum." In the 4th year of the apocalypse, I finally laid eyes on the precious data my brother had risked his life to protect. The documents bore not just my brother's smeared, darkened bloodstains, but also the serum formula developed during the initial outbreak by countless scientists and doctors who worked tirelessly, one after another, to combat the original zombie virus. The virus evolved at an alarming rate, rapidly upgrading itself within human hosts. With experts either dead or incapacitated, no one remained who could exploit the virus's weaknesses. Eradication became a distant dream, but now, there's still time to act. Locking eyes with my brother, I slowly recited the serum formula I'd committed to memory. Before I knew it, tears were welling up in my eyes. "Reborn into this world, my sole wish is that the apocalyptic devastation may never come to pass." 6. In the Emergency Management Agency's conference room, several stern officials surrounded me with cameras and voice recorders. I poured out every detail of my past life memories until I was utterly drained. Someone held my hand while others patted my shoulder. "Thank you, comrade. The information you've provided is invaluable. It could save countless lives." I gave a faint smile, and my brother puffed out his chest with pride. "Damn right, you're looking at my little sister." It was already midnight when I got back from the bureau. The motion-activated hallway lights flickered on one by one. Huishin stood grim-faced at my doorstep, a gleaming butterfly knife in his hand. He lifted his icy gaze to me. "Su Jinue, where have you been?" My heart skipped a beat. I thought my reincarnation secret had been exposed. Instinctively, I tightened my grip on the compact stun gun my brother had just given me. His disgusted inner monologue followed immediately. How did I never notice Su Jinue was this promiscuous, out all night carousing with random men instead of coming home? I can't believe I wasted my past life with that used-up trash. Just thinking about it makes me sick. I just got back riding the Emergency Management Bureau's official vehicle. It was too late, and my workaholic brother was completely obsessed with verifying the serum formula, too focused to even glance my way. Thankfully he still had a shred of decency left. Had his assistant drive me home. If Huishin had bothered to look properly for just 2 more seconds, he'd have realized that the other man was just my brother's colleague who often walks home with him, but he didn't, and arrogantly jumped to the conclusion that I was promiscuous. I couldn't help but feel a pang of pity for him. He could have noticed the truth and changed his mind, if only he'd paid attention. Unfortunately, he found nothing. Instead, he glared at me with a stony face, barely containing his anger as he demanded, "Who was that man who just brought you home?" I raised an eyebrow. "What's it to you?" On second thought, Huishin and I are neighbors on the same floor, and Aunt Shui is still home. There's no way he'd dare make a move on me here. I shoved Huishin aside and unlocked my door with an impassive face. When he tried to follow me in, I swiftly slammed the door shut in his face. His furious, frantic heartbeat pulsed through the door. "Su Jinue, you'll regret this. When I become the ruler of this wasteland, I wouldn't spare you even if you groveled at my feet." Huishin's top priority should be uninstalling those cringe-worthy Dragon King novels from his phone, but Huishin sees it differently. The next day, defying Aunt Shue's objections, he secretly mortgaged his current apartment to loan sharks, securing nearly $1 million in seed money. He rented the penthouse and began stockpiling supplies in bulk. 300 pounds of vacuum-sealed rice, 20 crates of survival biscuits, 100 cases of instant noodles, 100 canned meats, 10 emergency water containers, 5 boxes of water purification tablets, assorted freeze-dried meals, saline solution, cold medicine, anti-inflammatory drugs, iodine. Huishin's shopping spree covered everything imaginable, while simultaneously arranging renovation upgrades for both penthouse units. installed burglar-proof windows, soundproof panels, blast-resistant security doors, one-way privacy mirrors, blackout curtains, along with solar panels, a hand-crank generator, and the most advanced surveillance and early warning system on the market, even added 3 water tanks on the rooftop to store fresh water reserves. Within days, the penthouse was transformed into an impenetrable apocalypse fortress. If all goes well, these preparations would see him and Aunt Shue safely through the initial chaos of the apocalypse, allowing them to join the official base with ample surplus supplies and emerge as the beacon of humanity in the mid-apocalypse era, of course. That's assuming everything goes smoothly. While he was hoarding supplies like crazy, I, as the reborn prophet who warned of the apocalypse, was secretly taken into protective custody at the Emergency Management Bureau to prepare. Following my suggestion, my mother took Aunt Shue, who'd been quarreling with Huashen, on a relaxing trip to the neighboring city. Huashen was practically relieved to have Aunt Shue out of the way, giving him free rein to make his move, so he didn't object. I looked up from the dizzying math exam papers just in time to hear someone outside briefing my brother on Huashen's recent activities. After confirming the reality of the apocalypse, the Emergency Management Bureau was granted sweeping authority. Huashen's covert stockpiling efforts were completely transparent to the authorities. His communication devices were under 247 surveillance, with every website visited and item purchased being logged in real time for behavioral analysis. I never concealed the fact that Huashen was also a reincarnator. The Bureau has been trying to make contact with him to gather more intel about the apocalypse. After 10 years together, plus the debt I owe Aunt Shue, this is his final chance. Pity, he refused to communicate with anyone, whether undercover agents sent by the administration or officials who identified themselves. When questioned about the stockpile of emergency supplies on the rooftop, he grew visibly guarded, claiming he was planning to open an online store specializing in survival gear. As for the bank-grade security system, officer, how I decorate my own home is a citizen's basic right. Surely you're not going to police that too. Could you stop being so possessive about other people's money? The staff member vividly described the scene to my brother. His expression was complicated, his voice tinged with resentment. Captain, this kid won't listen to reason and has some counter-surveillance awareness. What should we do? My brother remained silent as he carefully reviewed Huashen's behavioral records from the past few days. After a moment, he tossed the documents aside and waved his hand. We've gathered enough intel. He shows no signs of proactive aggression. Keep just 2 agents for surveillance. Recall the rest to screen potential infected cases. Yes. After the staff left, my brother turned to me with a puzzled gaze and asked quietly, what exactly did you go through during those 10 years of the apocalypse? I remember Huashen wasn't like this before. 8. My gaze flickered, not wanting to worry my brother. I offered a half-truth of my speculation. Those 10 years were hell. Zombies everywhere. Society collapsed. We lived by the law of the jungle where only the strong survived. Huashen, he probably just hasn't adjusted to living in a peaceful world yet. I understood my brother's confusion. The Huashen of old valued loyalty above all. Though reckless and impulsive, he never lost his moral compass. Even with a second chance at life, I'd struggle to believe the depths of his twisted madness. Had I not heard those inner thoughts myself, his facade was flawless. Though long weary of me, he maintained that tender, devoted act right until his dying breath. My brother nodded thoughtfully, clearly wanting to press for more details. A beaming colleague interrupted. Captain Sue, great news. We've made progress with the infected subjects. Immediately dropping his concerns about Huashen, my brother decisively followed the colleague to the lab to examine the infected. I breathed a sigh of relief, deciding against telling my brother that Huashen might have been acting suspicious for a while. In the early days of the apocalypse, the world descended into chaos, filled with screams and wails everywhere. I struggled to adapt, doing my best to avoid bloody confrontations, but Huashen thrived in this madness, reveling in it. Once, our squad encountered a group of survivors ready to band together, until Huashen spotted the infection among them. Without hesitation, he turned his blade on those still sane humans, even children no older than 7 or 8, who'd just been smiling sweetly at us and calling us heroes. I couldn't accept or comprehend this, so I confronted him. Huashen calmly wiped blood from his knife. I merely granted them early release. Isn't it better to die lucidly as humans than to become mindless zombies? He sighed and ruffled my hair with a resigned tone. Su Jinyue, wake up. This is a brutal apocalypse. Your bleeding heart will only get you killed. Back then, his words shook me. I felt guilty, convinced I'd been too indecisive. But thinking it through, no, there were clearly better solutions. At the very least, with his combat skills, those infected could have died painlessly. I later visited that room, and the first thing that struck me was the horrifying bloodstains. Every victim died in agony, their faces frozen in perpetual terror. At the time, I didn't understand what Huishen had actually done to them, but now I realize he was reveling in the slaughter. 9. My brother's colleague did bring genuinely good news. Under the state apparatus coordination, all key suspected carriers have been located and contained within designated quarantine zones. By this point, they've all exhibited varying degrees of violent aggression, disorientation, and delirium. Dozens of experts in biomedicine, genetics, and related fields from across the nation rushed to the scene upon receiving the alert. Gray-haired scholars and cane-dependent researchers worked around the clock for 2 straight days, skipping meals to validate the antiserum formula against clinical observations. When the last trace of the zombie virus vanished from the final suspected patient, the entire control bureau erupted in thunderous cheers. People embraced each other with tears streaming down their faces. But this was far from over. After the infected regained consciousness, authorities tracked their movements and apprehended several suspicious foreign nationals. The truth only came out after the interrogation. The so-called apocalypse was actually a premeditated biochemical attack by hostile forces. Following the National College entrance exams, our city will host an international military technology expo. The entire exhibition will be live-streamed globally, with wealthy Middle Eastern clients enthusiastically placing orders and generating substantial foreign exchange. Their goal was to create mass chaos, humiliating China on the global stage. Ironically, in our past lives, the nations behind these foreign operatives collapsed completely during the early apocalypse, their governments dissolving, yet China's authorities never ceased rescue operations for civilians. Not even after Huishen and I died. Those schemers likely never anticipated the virus would mutate at such breakneck speed. They've opened Pandora's box, sealing their own fate with their own hands. Now those men are shouting defiantly, their eyes gleaming with smug cunning. Easterners, we fear no death. We programmed everything before capture. The virus is already deployed across the city. You're finished. The joy on everyone's faces vanished instantly. Fists clenched as they looked helplessly at my brother. Captain Sue, what should we do now? The serum formula I brought back can only cure virus carriers or those in the incubation period, and it must be administered via injection. With the entire city being poisoned, anyone could be carrying or contracting the virus. In this situation, it's extremely difficult to promptly identify the infected from healthy individuals for proper treatment. Evil Eastern Dragon, prepare to face God's divine retribution. In the special interrogation room, the deranged cultists exchanged glances before biting off their tongues without hesitation, their faces contorted with grotesque grins. These goddamn lunatics. Someone cursed under their breath and punched the wall, leaving smears of blood on the concrete. Is there really no way to stop the apocalypse? 10. The high spirits in the Emergency Management Bureau quickly deflated. Amidst the despair, several experts decisively led the team back to the lab, meticulously studying the notes I'd reproduced from memory. Their silence spoke volumes. Several sleepless nights passed. Finally, 2 days before the National College entrance exams, they developed an improved disinfectant targeting non-hosted viruses. That night, over a dozen helicopters took off under cover of darkness, showering the land with the disinfectant that embodied countless people's tireless efforts. The crisis was averted, but those experts collapsed from exhaustion during the intense experiments and were hospitalized. After regaining consciousness, my brother told me they wanted to see me. Accompanied by security personnel, I went there carrying a fruit basket. My palms were sweating nervously before opening the door. I couldn't imagine why these legendary figures in our field wanted to meet me. Are they trying to extract my blood for human regeneration research? I racked my brains trying to come up with a reason to refuse, but when I pushed open the door and saw the scene inside, I froze. These experts, who had been in their prime with jet black hair just days ago, now their hair had turned white overnight. Their faces ashen, clear signs their vitality had faded. They huddled together, heatedly debating the serum formula I'd transcribed from memory. Spotting me, they waved with warm smiles. "Thank you, young one," they said. "If you hadn't memorized these records so thoroughly, we'd never have had the chance to stand on the shoulders of giants in this race against the apocalypse." I know, right? Who'd have thought we'd be the ones saving all of humanity? The kind faces gradually overlapped with the blood-stained photographs in the files. I stared at them blankly, tears streaming uncontrollably down my face. No, it's me who should thank you. They weren't standing on the shoulders of giants, they themselves were the giants. 11. The day before the college entrance exam, just like in my past life, my brother personally took me to familiarize myself with the test location. He stood frozen before the classroom door, staring at the exam hall number in disbelief. Examination Hall C-181, Singji Middle School campus, just one room away from the zombie-infested exam hall in his past life. My brother completely lost his composure, pulling at me while babbling incessantly. Jinyue, why not take the exam next year instead? You're still young, spend another year at home with mom and dad. What if they release some new upgraded virus strain? I've got a mission tomorrow, won't be able to look after you. I pulled his sleeve with mixed amusement and exasperation. Bro, have some faith in yourself and the team. Frankly, you've turned the entire city upside down these past days. Every potential threat has been neutralized. The latest disinfectant formulas and serum recipes have already been distributed nationwide. What else could possibly worry you? My brother glared at me, his lips pressed into a thin, tense line. But, no buts. I cut him off, tilting my chin defiantly. Don't underestimate me. Last time around, I escaped that exam hall single-handedly and saved dozens on my way out. Even if something really happens, I can protect myself. I stopped in my tracks, staring in disbelief at my brother's reddening eyes. I know, but the thought of you being in danger makes me uneasy. Xiaoya, I failed to protect you in our past life. I'm sorry. I froze for a moment, feeling my eyes grow moist. What nonsense are you spouting? If we're counting properly, I'm older than you now. Call me sis. Oh really, such disrespect. You're asking for a lesson. My brother's face darkened as he made to pinch my ear. Amidst the playful scuffle, Huixin's message came through. Su Jinyue, where have you moved to? Are you really this upset just because I'm dating Xia Xian? If you miss tomorrow's college entrance exam, consider this my final warning. The smile faded from my face. My brother came over too. Seeing my conflicted expression, he patted my shoulder and said with a laugh, go ahead and post it. Just don't reveal any official plans. While we shouldn't interfere with others' karma, giving appropriate warnings is just basic human decency for any compassionate person. I muttered, if you survive the apocalypse, people are gonna call you a bleeding heart. My brother leaned against the wall with a hearty laugh. So what? Your brother here has a clear conscience. I chuckled along. Then after a moment's thought, typed out a line. Huixin, there won't be any apocalypse. I'll keep taking the exams. Tap send. Then block Huixin's number for good. His hatred for me now is real, his twisted soul is real, but so were those 10 years we walked side by side in our past life. Though his words didn't match his intentions and he had ulterior motives, he genuinely saved my life countless times in our past existence. 12. The next morning at the school gate, I unexpectedly spotted Xia Xian in the crowd. She still carried that same haughty demeanor. Shooting me an icy glance, she raised an eyebrow and snapped, what are you staring at, like you've never seen me before? I voiced my confusion. Aren't you skipping the college entrance exam to be with Huixin? Xia Xian rolled her eyes. After studying seriously for 3 years and competing with you all this time, it'd be such a waste not to take the test. As for Huixin, if even you wouldn't keep him, what kind of catch could he possibly be? Just humored him with a few days of playing house, that's all. You really think I'm stupid? That actually makes sense. I'm at a loss for words. Seeing me speechless, Xia Xian hummed a tune and walked toward the exam hall. As she passed by me, for some reason, she stopped again. By the way, I knew you could reprint the exam admission ticket. Just messing with you that day. My bad, sorry. I nodded. No worries. Not like I planned to forgive you anyway, as if I care. She walked off with her nose in the air, shaking my head helplessly. I turned to leave when I suddenly sensed a pair of sinister eyes fixed upon me. Glancing around, a shadowy figure darted past and vanished into thin air. A familiar inner voice drifted from afar. So Xia Xian is just another gold digger. How could I have misjudged her? No wonder she ended up dying so miserably in that zombie horde. She totally deserved it. What did Su Jinyue's message yesterday mean? Could she have also been reborn and altered the future? No, impossible. If she truly had memories of her past life, she'd have lost her mind seeing me with Xia Xian. The apocalypse is definitely coming. This will be my most efficient ticket to change my fate and climb the social ladder. I must seize this opportunity with everything I've got. If Su Jinyue is still alive by then and begs me, maybe I'll consider saving her again. You can't reason with those hellbent on destruction. I exhaled slowly, flashed a smile at my homeroom teacher, and strode confidently into the examination hall. 13, June 7, 2025, 9:55 a.m. Beijing time. Amidst the gentle patter of rain, I looked up from Laoxi's The Drum Singers and glanced at the clock above the classroom doorway. The second hand ticks forward frame by frame. I found myself holding my breath without realizing it, just like in my past life. Proctors occasionally walked by outside the window. Unlike before, they were now accompanied by 2 armed police officers with holstered pistols, ready for the worst-case scenario. A faint click sounded, the clock struck 9:56, a breeze swept by, carrying a misty drizzle that brushed against my ears. No screams, no chaos, nor oceans of crimson blood, only the sound of rain and the scratching of pen on paper filled the air. Everyone's hard work truly changed everything. The apocalypse will never come again, I smiled, wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes, and buried myself in the test again. This time, I finally finished that college entrance exam paper and turned in an answer I was proud of. 3 days later, I walked out of the exam hall to find my brother waiting at the school gate. On our way home, my brother asked me, "Has Huishin contacted you?" I opened my phone to a flood of unread messages. June 7, 2025, 9:16 a.m. You actually went to take the college entrance exam. Can't save those hellbent on destruction. Su Jinyue, if you beg me now, I might still consider saving you. June 7, 2025, 9:56 a.m. What's going on? Why hasn't the apocalypse started yet? You've been reborn too. What did you do? June 8, 2025, 16:37. If we get another life, wait for me. I'll find you no matter what. You better pray we never meet again, or I'll tear you limb from limb. The last message came through at 10:30 this morning. I was wrong. Can you forgive me and lend me another 2 million? My brother sighed. Huishin's 1 million loan ballooned to 2 million in just 7 days. When he borrowed the money, he was so cocky thinking the apocalypse was inevitable. That's why the loan sharks had it out for him. They came collecting the moment the deadline hit. When Huishin couldn't pay and arrogantly thought his reinforced house was impenetrable, it sent those thugs into a rage. They smashed through the wall and forced their way in. My brother paused, seeing my calm expression before continuing. Huishin got into a fight with them. By the time our people arrived, there were 2 dead and 3 injured. He took a severe blow to the head and is still hospitalized. The doctors say he might end up in a vegetative state. Aunt Shui is on her way back now. Do you want to go see him? I shook my head. No. We're nothing to each other anymore. I want nothing more to do with anything related to Huishin. My brother nodded understandingly. Under the amber sunset, with the storm cleared, we walked home laughing. 2 weeks later, when the college entrance exam results came out, I barely made Tsinghua University's cutoff score from last year. The whole family was thrilled for me, and I even got a call from the admissions office. Hearing the gentle voice of the staff member on the other end, I declined with a smile, without hesitation. I followed my brother's footsteps and applied to the People's Public Security University. My parents were surprised, but my brother had seen it coming. We exchanged knowing smiles. Some things need no words. I've witnessed the light, chased after it, and now given the chance, I want to become that very light. Story 2. The Shin family had only one male heir for 7 generations, and Shin Zhao was frail and unlikely to father children. Shin's father spent a fortune to marry me as his daughter-in-law, solely because I possessed the rare fertility saint body. After marriage, Shin Zhao's health improved, and I became pregnant without difficulty. Overjoyed, Shin's father promised me 10% of the family shares. On the night of the victory celebration, Shin Zhao, fueled by alcohol, kicked me square in the stomach. You vile woman. His eyes burned with hatred. If it weren't for your scheming, how could Su Ruoheng have married the wrong man and been beaten to death? I collapsed in a pool of blood, my eyes wide open in death. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day Shin's father came to propose marriage. Looking at the elegant and composed Shin Nanlang before me, I smiled lightly and spoke, "Mr. Shin. Rather than pinning your hopes on your sickly son to carry on the family line, how about I marry you and bear you a few healthy heirs?" Excruciating pain exploded from my abdomen, like a sharp knife violently churning inside me. I curled up on the expensive Persian rug in the Shin family villa, desperately protecting my belly with both hands, yet unable to block the relentless kicks. "You bitch, this is all your fault." Shin Zhao's drunken voice came from above me. Accompanied by another wave of excruciating pain, blood gushed out from beneath me. staining the light-colored carpet crimson. I could feel life slowly draining away, along with the 3-month-old little life inside my womb. If it weren't for you swindling and colluding with others to claim you were a fertility goddess, my father wouldn't have forced me to marry an old woman like you. And Su Ruohang wouldn't have married the wrong person and ended up beaten to death. Xin Zhao's voice was filled with twisted hatred. My vision began to blur as my consciousness gradually scattered. So that's how it is. So he's always hated me. The Xin family had only one male heir for 7 generations. Xin Zhao was frail and sickly since childhood, with a constitution prone to fertility difficulties. The Xin family searched everywhere for a woman with excellent fertility, until they found me. What doctors called a naturally blessed womb. The Xin family welcomed me with a lavish bride price. After marrying me, Xin Zhao's health indeed gradually improved, and I successfully became pregnant. Father Xin Nanlang was overjoyed, even promising to give me 10% of the company's shares, yet all of this became my sin in Xin Zhao's eyes. I opened my mouth, wanting to say something, but only coughed up a mouthful of blood. Darkness surged like a tide, and in my final moments of consciousness, I swore that if there was a next life. Man, Mr. Shen has already arrived. Why are you still spacing out? My mother's voice pulled me back from the chaos. I suddenly opened my eyes and found myself sitting in the living room at home, with a steaming cup of tea in front of me. The sunlight outside was bright, shining on my unharmed body. Is this, 1 year ago, Mr. Shen has come this time to propose marriage on behalf of his son Xin Zhao. Mother whispered to me, her eyes sparkling with excitement. The Xin family, now that's true aristocracy. My heart pounded wildly as my fingers unconsciously brushed over my flat abdomen. I've been reborn. I've truly been reborn. Back to the very day Xin Nanlang first came to propose marriage. Looking up towards the doorway, a tall and straight middle-aged man was stepping inside. Xin Nanlang, 45 years old yet well-maintained, exuded the charm of a mature man in every gesture. He wore a tailored dark gray suit, with deep-set facial features and sharp yet gentle eyes. Miss Jiang, I've long heard of you. He nodded in greeting, his voice deep and pleasant. In my past life, I shyly lowered my head and joyfully accepted the arrangement to marry Xin Zhao. But now, I gazed directly at this man who dominates the business world, suddenly flashing a radiant smile. Mr. Shen, please have a seat. I gesture gracefully, then meet his eyes after he sits down. I heard your son is in poor health, and the Xin family urgently needs an heir. Xin Nanlang slightly furrows his brows, seemingly surprised by my directness. My son indeed requires a wife blessed with good fortune. I let out a light chuckle, picking up the teacup to take a sip. Mr. Shen, rather than pinning your hopes of continuing the family line on your sickly son, I deliberately paused, meeting his gaze. Why don't I marry you instead and bear you several sons? With a clatter, the teapot in mother's hands fell to the ground. Xin Nanlang's expression froze, his eyes flashing with shock, bewilderment, followed by deep contemplation. I maintained a smile, knowing my words would detonate like a bomb in the heart of this aristocratic family head with deeply ingrained traditional values. Memories from my past life told me that Xin Nanlang had remained unmarried for years after losing his spouse, not due to lack of desire, but for the sake of family reputation. And now, I could see the flames gradually igniting in his eyes, the longing for an heir, the yearning for youthful vitality, and his stirring interest in my bold proposal. Miss Jiang, are you serious about this? His voice carried a hint of hoarseness. I'm 28 years old and in excellent health. The doctor said I have a rare fertility-friendly constitution, I stated frankly, rather than marrying a sickly man who might be completely infertile. I'd rather become your wife directly and bear you healthy heirs. Xin Nanlang's eyes lit up as he scrutinized me carefully, as if appraising a precious collectible. I knew victory was within my grasp. In my past life, the doctor said my constitution not only makes conception easy but also nourishes my partner better than any tonic. For Xin Nanlang, who yearns for heirs and whose health is declining, this was an irresistible temptation. Dad, what are you doing? An angry voice came from the doorway. I turned to see Xin Zhao standing at the door, pale-faced with disbelief in his eyes. He looked even frilier than remembered, as if a gust of wind could knock him over. How could my past self have thought such a man was worth entrusting my life to? She's my fiancé, Xin Zhao burst in, but a single glance from Xin Nanlang pinned him in place. From today onward, she is your mother. Xin Nanlang's voice brooked no argument. Miss Jiang is right, the Xin family needs healthy heirs. Watching Xin Zhao's contorted expression, a surge of satisfaction welled up in my heart. The game has only just begun. Xin Zhao, the pain you inflicted on me in our past life, I'll return it 100-fold in this one. That very afternoon, I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau with Shin Nanlang. The moment the marriage certificate was in my hands, I knew the gears of fate had turned in a completely different direction. On the first day I moved into the Shin family villa, I summoned the butler to the study. Butler Lin, in his early 50s, had worked for the Shin family for nearly 20 years, his gaze carrying a barely concealed disdain when looking at me. In my past life when I married Shin Zhao, he caused me no small amount of trouble. Butler Lin, starting today, I want to review all staff schedules and payrolls every Monday. Sitting in my leather swivel chair, I tapped the desk lightly with my fingertips. Also, compile the detailed household expenses for the past 6 months. I need to review them. Butler Lin's brows furrowed almost imperceptibly. Madam, these matters have always been under my responsibility. The master never concerned himself with such trivial affairs. I smiled faintly. Now I'm managing the household. Is there a problem with that? I wouldn't dare. He lowered his head, but I saw the corner of his mouth twitch. By the way, I added as he turned away. Change the master bedroom sheets to silk, Mr. Shin prefers them. Steward Lin's back stiffened slightly as he bowed in acknowledgement. I knew this news would spread through the Shin household like wildfire. The new mistress not only held authority but had already shared the master's bed. After the butler left, I surveyed the study. In my past life, I was rarely allowed to enter here, but now it has become my center of power. I turned on the computer and pulled up the Shin family's household management system. The password hadn't changed. It was still Shin Zhao's birthday, just like in my past life. Despite Shin Nanlang's stern exterior, he truly doted on his only son. The data on the screen made me raise my eyebrows. Just 1 month's flour expenses alone amounted to 50,000, not to mention those premium wines and ingredients. In my past life, I thought the Shin family was simply this extravagant. But now I realize someone was lining their own pockets. I was just recording the suspicious accounts when the door suddenly swung open. Shin Zhao stood at the door, his face dark and gloomy. What do you want? I didn't look up, continuing to stare at the screen. Did you think marrying my father would give you free rein in the Shin family? His voice was low, laced with threat. Only then did I raise my eyes to look at him. Shin Zhao, knocking is the most basic courtesy. Also, you should call me mom, or at least auntie. His face instantly turned ashen as he strode to the desk, slamming both hands on the surface. Stop dreaming, you're just a purchased breeding machine. I met his gaze calmly. Then what are you? A worthless man who can't even reproduce. Shin Zhao's pupils constricted violently, his right hand raised to strike. I didn't flinch, merely raising my voice. Mr. Shin, your son is about to hit your wife. Shin Zhao's hand froze midair as he turned to look at the doorway. Shin Nanlang stood there at some unknown moment, his face terrifyingly dark. Get out, he said to Shin Zhao, his voice as cold as ice. Shin Zhao withdrew his hand and said through gritted teeth, Dad, she's investigating our family accounts. She must have ulterior motives. I ordered the investigation. Shin Nanlang walked in and stood beside me. Your mother is currently in charge of household affairs. Any problems, mother? Shin Zhao laughed shrilly. She's only 3 years older than me. Shin Nanlang's gaze turned sharp. Age isn't the issue. She's my lawfully wedded wife, which makes her your mother. If I hear any more disrespect from you, I'll freeze your credit cards. Shin Zhao opened his mouth but ultimately said nothing, slamming the door as he left. Don't mind him. Shin Nanlang turned to me. He's been spoiled. I smiled. It's alright, I'll be a good stepmother. Especially when this good stepmother can push him into the fire, I added silently. Shin Nanlang nodded in satisfaction, then asked, any findings from the account check? I've identified several anomalies. Here, and here, the expenditures are significantly higher than market prices. Also, I pointed at the screen, there were 3 large purchases last month, but the household inventory records don't match. Shin Nanlang's gaze turned cold. Steward Lin, don't alert the enemy yet, I said softly. I'll continue investigating to obtain solid evidence. He gave me an appreciative look. You're more capable than I imagined. Just doing my duty, I said modestly, then changed the subject. By the way, I've looked into the Su family's background. Su Ruohang is 24 this year, just returned from studying in England, comes from a clean family background. And the marriage alliance with Su Group would also benefit the Shin family, Shin Nanlang said thoughtfully. You're really quite concerned about Shin Zhao's marriage. Of course, I smiled virtuously. Although he doesn't acknowledge me as his mother, I've always treated him as my son. Shin Nanlang movedly grasped my hand. It's rare to find such kindness in your heart. I'll contact the Su family to arrange a meeting. Watching his retreating figure, a cold smirk curled at the corner of my lips. In our past life, Su Ruohang was the white moonlight in Xin Zhao's heart. But this young mistress was spoiled and willful, looking down most on weak and incapable men. Marrying such a woman to Xin Zhao would be more satisfying than any revenge. At dinner time, I changed into a dark green cheongsam, pinned up my hair, and wore the jade earring Shen Nanlang gave me. The reflection in the mirror showed an elegant and dignified woman, every bit the matriarch of a wealthy family. In the dining room, several close relatives of the Shen family had already taken their seats. Xin Zhao sat in the lower seat, a flicker of disgust flashing through his eyes when he saw me. I pretended not to notice and walked straight to the seat beside Shen Nanlang, the position that only Xin Zhao's mother could occupy in my previous life. I heard the madam is checking the accounts. Xin Zhao's aunt Shenli spoke with sarcasm, eager to seize power so soon after entering the household. I leisurely scooped a spoonful of soup. Auntie, you jest. Sharing a husband's burdens is a wife's duty. I turned to Shen Nanlang. Isn't that right, darling? Shen Nanlang nodded. Man is very capable and has identified some issues. I'll handle this matter. Shen Li's expression changed slightly, not daring to say more. By the way, I suddenly seemed to remember something and turned to Xin Zhao. I've discussed your marriage with your father. Miss Su from the Su family will be visiting this weekend, so prepare yourself. Xin Zhao's fork clattered onto the plate. What, Miss Su Ruohang? Haven't you always admired her? I feigned surprise, or did I remember wrong? Xin Zhao's expression was priceless, first shock, then doubt, finally twisting into a distorted joy. You want me and Ruohang too? The Su family is well matched in social status, and Miss Su is both talented and beautiful, Shen Nanlang chimed in. Your mother's proposal is excellent. At the mention of mother, Xin Zhao's face darkened again, but Su Ruohang's name clearly prevented him from losing his temper. He lowered his head to eat, but the tips of his ears turned red. I took small bites of the foie gras, sneering inwardly. Just wait, Xin Zhao, your dream will soon turn into a nightmare. The weekend arrived quickly. Su Ruohang came to visit accompanied by his parents, too. She was wearing a designer dress and 10-centimeter high heels. With makeup so exquisite it looked like she was ready to walk the red carpet. Hello, Uncle Shen, she called out sweetly as soon as she entered, then paused noticeably upon seeing me. And this is my wife, Jiang Man, Shen Nanlang introduced. Man, this is Miss Su Ruohang. I smiled and nodded. Miss Su is indeed as beautiful as the rumors say. Su Ruohang forced a smile, but his gaze kept drifting towards Xin Zhao. Xin Zhao had dressed up specially today, but his pale complexion and frail frame appeared diminished next to the towering Shen Nanlang. During the luncheon, Su Ruohang's parents showed great enthusiasm for this marriage arrangement. Though the Su family could be considered wealthy, they still fell short when compared to the Shen clan. Ruohang has been spoiled since childhood, but she has a kind heart, Madame Su said with a smile. She's about the same age as Xin Zhao, they'll surely get along well. I noticed Su Ruohang's smile seemed somewhat forced. When Xin Zhao attentively poured wine for her, she slightly furrowed her brows and subtly shifted her body away. What did Miss Su study in England? I asked at an opportune moment. Art history, she answered with pride in her voice. I particularly love Victorian-era paintings. What a coincidence. Xin Zhao also enjoys art, I said with a smile. He's collected quite a few reproductions of famous paintings, right, Xin Zhao? Xin Zhao froze for a moment before hurriedly nodding. Why yes, I especially like that Mona Lisa. Su Ruohang's mouth twitched. That's from the Renaissance period, by Da Vinci. The atmosphere turned awkward for a moment. Xin Zhao flushed red, while the disdain in Su Ruohang's eyes became even more apparent. After the luncheon, while the elders were chatting, I deliberately steered Su Ruohang and Xin Zhao to take a walk in the garden. Through the floor-to-ceiling window, I saw Su Ruohang walking ahead with arms crossed, while Xin Zhao followed step by step like an attendant. It seems they're getting along well, Shen Nanlang remarked with satisfaction. I smiled faintly. Yes, they make a perfect match. A month later, Xin Zhao and Su Ruohang's engagement ceremony was grandly held. As the lady of the Shen household, I handled everything meticulously, from venue decoration to guest lists. Leaving no detail unattended, Shen Nanlang grew increasingly reliant on me, even publicly referring to me as his virtuous helpmate. At the engagement banquet, Xin Zhao wore a custom-tailored suit, yet still couldn't carry off that upright demeanor. Su Ruohang was stunning in a white dress, but the reluctance in her eyes was already impossible to conceal. Congratulations, Xin Zhao. His cousin Shen Ming patted his shoulder with a wink. Su Ruohang is famously fiery-tempered, can you really handle her? Shin Zhao forced a smile, Ruohang is actually very gentle, really. Shin Ming motioned with his chin toward the distance, then why has she been chatting so happily with that model all this time? Following his gaze, I saw Su Ruohang laughing and chatting animatedly with a tall, handsome young man, occasionally placing her hand on his arm. Shin Zhao's expression instantly darkened. I'm going to check it out, he said through gritted teeth. I quietly followed, hiding behind a pillar to observe. Shin Zhao walked over to Su Ruohang's side and whispered something. Su Ruohang frowned. What's wrong with me chatting with friends? Is it any of your business? But today is our engagement day. Shin Zhao's voice carried a pleading tone. So what? Su Ruohang sneered. Should I kneel down and thank you for your great favor? She deliberately raised her voice. If it weren't for my father forcing me, who would want to marry a sickly weakling like you? Shin Zhao stood frozen in place as if struck by lightning. Su Ruohang walked off arm in arm with that model, leaving without a second glance. I appeared at just the right moment, pretending to have just passed by. Shin Zhao, what's wrong? You look so pale. He suddenly turned to me, his eyes filled with resentment. Are you satisfied now? Is this the wonderful marriage you found for me? I put on an innocent face. What's wrong? Doesn't Miss Su like you very much? Like, Shin Zhao sneered. She looks down on me completely. It's all your fault. You did this on purpose, Shin Zhao. Shin Nanling's voice came from behind. Mind your manners. Shin Zhao closed his mouth, but the fury in his eyes was almost palpable. I held Shin Nanling's arm and whispered, the child might be too nervous. After all, it's their first engagement. Shin Nanling patted my hand and said, you're always so understanding. That evening, the Shin family held a small family banquet to celebrate the engagement. Shin Zhao excused himself from attending due to discomfort, while Su Ruohang did show up but remained absent-minded throughout, constantly checking his phone. I heard Shin Zhao has always been in poor health. Su Ruohang suddenly asked during the meal, what exactly is the issue? The dining table fell silent. Shin Nanling set down his wine glass. He's just somewhat frail. Proper rest will help him recover. Is that so? Su Ruohang raised an eyebrow. Then why did my friend say he has long-term medical records at Rinha Hospital, and that he... She suddenly stopped, as if realizing she'd said too much. Shin Nanling's gaze turned sharp. Who is this friend of yours? Su Ruohang flustered. Just, a friend who studies medicine. I mediated at the right moment. Miss Su is just concerned about Shin Zhao. Here, try this lobster, flown in fresh from Australia this morning. After the dinner, Shin Nanling summoned me to the study. Su Ruohang isn't simple. She's investigating Shin Zhao. It's normal for young people to get to know each other before marriage. I poured him a cup of tea. Shin Nanling shook his head. It's not that simple. I suspect she has ulterior motives. He pondered for a moment. But what's done is done. The engagement can't be cancelled. The Shin family can't afford to lose face. I secretly rejoiced in my heart. This is exactly what I wanted, a marriage full of suspicion and resentment. By the way, Shin Nanling suddenly changed the subject. How have you been feeling lately? Any particular reactions? I knew what he was asking. Since getting married, we've hardly taken any contraceptive measures. In my past life, I became pregnant within 3 months of marrying Shin Zhao. This lifetime should be similar. No signs yet. I touched my flat abdomen, but the doctor said my constitution makes conception easy. It shouldn't take long. A glimmer of anticipation flashed in Shin Nanling's eyes. Just name any nourishing supplements you need. I'll have them prepared. You're so good to me. I leaned against his shoulder, concealing the coldness in my eyes. The next morning, I deliberately ran into Shin Zhao when he woke up. He had dark circles under his eyes, clearly having stayed up all night. Shin Zhao, why didn't you come for dinner last night? I asked with concern. Are you feeling unwell? He looked at me coldly. Stop pretending. I know you orchestrated all this. I blinked. Design what? Ruohang never wanted to marry me. He growled in a low voice. You knew all along, didn't you? I sighed. Shin Zhao, marriage is a matter of parental orders and matchmakers' words. Miss Su might need time to adjust, but feelings can develop. I deliberately paused, or perhaps you wish to follow your father's example and marry a wife 17 years your junior. Shin Zhao's face turned livid. His fists clenched audibly. One day, I'll make you regret this. Jiang Man, mind your tone, son. I smiled. Don't forget, I'm your mother now. Watching his furious retreating figure, my mood soared. This is just the beginning, Shin Zhao. Every ounce of pain you inflicted on me in our past life, I'll return to you bit by bit. Returning to the bedroom, I stood before the full-length mirror and gently touched my abdomen. Soon, very soon there will be good news. When that time comes, Xin Zhao's status in the Xin family will plummet, and only then can my revenge plan truly unfold. The morning sunlight filtered through the sheer curtains into the bedroom. I opened my eyes to find Xin Nanling already up and gone from beside me, reaching for the thermometer on the nightstand. I habitually began monitoring my basal body temperature, a crucial indicator for conception. The thermometer shows 36.7 degrees, 3 degrees higher than yesterday. The corners of my mouth involuntarily turned upward. Based on past experience, this is a sign that ovulation is approaching. Rolling out of bed, I took the prenatal nutrition pills from the drawer and swallowed them with warm water. In the mirror, my complexion looked rosy. My skin smooth. My 28-year-old body is at the optimal age for childbearing. I gently caress my flat belly, imagining the new life that will soon grow within. In my past life, I only carried one child before Xin Zhao killed me. In this life, I will make the Xin family change completely. My phone vibrates, a message from the private investigator. Target's recent activity records and medical files obtained. Encrypted data sent to your secure email, with a faint smile. I lock the bathroom door and open my laptop. The file package from the detective contained Xin Zhao's recent movement records, call logs, and, what concerned me most, his complete medical records from Renhe Hospital. The medical records were dense with professional terminology, but a few key phrases jumped out: oligospermia, low sperm motility, congenital physical weakness. Flipping to the end, the doctor's conclusion was particularly glaring: natural conception probability below 5%. Assisted reproductive technology recommended. I let out a cold laugh, continuing to browse through the materials sent by the detective. Xin Zhao's recent call records caught my attention. One number appeared frequently, mostly late at night. I noted down the number and sent it to another contact. Find out who owns this number, the sooner the better. Just as I closed the laptop, there was a knock at the door. Madam, breakfast is ready. It was the voice of the maid. Xiaohe, got it. I'll be right down. In the dining room, Xin Nanling was reading a financial newspaper with black coffee and whole wheat toast in front of him. Seeing me enter, he put down the newspaper. Did you sleep well? Very good. I walked over to him and gave him a light kiss on the cheek. 3. This action had become a habit, though initially it was just for the servants to see. Xin Nanling handed me a document. Take a look at this. I opened the file. It was information about a medical equipment company that the Xin Group planned to acquire. In the previous life, this acquisition deal failed due to the other party concealing patent disputes, causing the Xin Group to lose tens of millions. There's a problem. I pointed at the patent list. The patent for this core product expires next year, and I've heard there's an ongoing infringement lawsuit. Xin Nanling raised an eyebrow. How do you know that? I have a college classmate working at that company. I casually made up an excuse. The acquisition price should be reduced by at least 30%. And we need to add indemnity clauses for patent disputes. Xin Nanling nodded thoughtfully. I'll have the legal department re-evaluate. His gaze held a hint of admiration as he looked at me. You always manage to surprise me. I smiled without speaking. This is just the beginning. Xin Nanling, in my past life, being constantly exposed to Xin Zhao's influence, I became thoroughly familiar with the operations of the Xin Group. In this life, this knowledge will become my sharp weapon to establish myself in the Xin family. Xin Zhao staggered into the dining room, his face as pale as a ghost. He had dark circles under his eyes and was still wearing yesterday's clothes, all crumpled as if he had slept on the sofa, staying up late again. Xin Nanling frowned. Xin Zhao didn't answer. Walking straight to the coffee machine and pouring himself a full cup of black coffee. What about Miss Su? I asked deliberately. Why didn't she come for breakfast together? Xin Zhao's hand trembled slightly, spilling coffee on his skin, yet he seemed unfazed by the heat. None of your business, Xin Zhao. Xin Nanling shouted sternly. Apologize to your mother. She's not my mother. Xin Zhao whirled around, slamming the coffee cup onto the table with a bang. Don't you find it disgusting to marry a woman only 3 years older than me? The servants in the dining room all lowered their heads, pretending not to hear. Xin Nanling's face darkened ominously as he slowly rose to his feet. Come to my study, now. Xin Zhao gave me a provocative glance before following his father out. I spread jam leisurely while pricking up my ears to listen to the commotion upstairs. Soon, faint sounds of roaring and objects being thrown could be heard. 20 minutes later, Xin Zhao stormed out of the study in a rage, slamming the door behind him. When Xin Nanling came downstairs, his expression had returned to calm. but the veins on his temples betrayed his anger. He needs to reflect seriously, Shen Nanling said coldly. I've frozen his credit card for 3 months. I handed him a freshly brewed cup of coffee. He's still young and doesn't know better. 25 is still young. Shen Nanling shook his head. He's been spoiled by his mother. I didn't respond. In Shen Zhao's previous life, his mother passed away early, and Shen Nanling never remarried, spoiling his only son rotten, until my appearance disrupted this balance. By the way, Shen Nanling changed the subject. There's a charity banquet tonight. Will you accompany me? The honor is mine, I smiled. In my past life, I was never brought to such occasions. Shen Zhao always attended alone, using my humble origins and lack of etiquette as an excuse. In the afternoon, while I was selecting an evening gown in the dressing room, my phone rang. It was the reply about the number check. The number belongs to Lin Jifeng, vice president of Shen Group, who has a close relationship with the target, Lin Jifeng. I narrowed my eyes. Shen Zhao's trusted aide in my past life, who later became his accomplice in harming me. I never realized their collusion started this early. In the evening, I wore a burgundy mermaid gown and put on the diamond necklace Shen Nanling gave me. The reflection in the mirror dazzles with radiance, completely concealing my once ordinary origins. Beautiful. Shen Nanling stood at the doorway, his eyes flashing with admiration. I held his arm as we descended the stairs, just in time to encounter Su Ruoheng, who had just returned home. She was dressed in a crop top and hot pants, a full nightclub outfit, and visibly froze for a moment upon seeing us. Are you going out, Miss Su? I asked gently. Meeting a friend, she said nonchalantly, though her eyes kept darting toward Shen Nanling. I noticed Shen Nanling frowned slightly. Where's Shen Zhao? Who knows? Su Ruoheng pursed her lips, probably drowning his sorrows at some bar. She jingled her car keys. I won't disturb you too. Watching her sway her hips as she walked away, a faint smile curled at the corners of my mouth. It seems this loving engaged couple's life is quite eventful. The charity gala was held at the Shangri-La Hotel, with most attendees being prominent figures from the business world. Shen Nanling became the center of attention the moment he entered, with people continuously coming over to exchange pleasantries. As for me, being Mrs. Shen, I naturally received unprecedented attention. So this is Mrs. Shen, indeed young and beautiful. A bejeweled woman scrutinized me. I heard you have a special constitution. I maintained my smile. You flatter me, Mrs. Li. Mr. Shen and I simply had fate bring us together. Fate, she smiled meaningfully. The Shen family has had 7 generations of single heirs, and Shen Zhao's health isn't good. The chairman must be getting anxious. I pretended not to catch her barbed tone. Speaking of Shen Zhao, his wedding with Miss Su is scheduled for next month. We'd be honored by your presence. Her expression froze for a moment, clearly not expecting me to be so direct. Shen Nanling interjected at the right moment. Man cares deeply about Shen Zhao, even personally handling the wedding arrangements. The surrounding executives exchanged glances, their attitude towards me noticeably more respectful. It seems Shen Nanling's public statement has had an effect. Halfway through the dinner, I excused myself to touch up my makeup and went to the restroom. Just as I stepped out of the banquet hall, I spotted a familiar figure, Lin Jifeng, hiding in a corner while making a phone call. Don't worry. I've already calmed Shen Zhao down. He lowered his voice. No matter how much Shen Nanling dotes on that woman, it's useless as long as Shen Zhao remains the sole heir. I quietly retreated around the corner and only came out after he left. It seems Shen Zhao and his confidant are already conspiring. In my previous life, they gradually undermined Shen Nanling and ultimately caused my death. This lifetime I'll repay them double. On the way home, Shen Nanling received a call from the company about new developments in the acquisition case. After hanging up, he rarely showed a smile. They agreed to a 35% price reduction and accepted the exemption clause. Man, you've done a great job. I just mentioned it casually, I said modestly. No, you have great business acumen. Shen Nanling looked at me seriously. Starting tomorrow, come to the company with me. I'd like to hear your thoughts on several projects. This was exactly what I wanted, more opportunities to engage with the core business of the Shen Group. The honor is mine, I said softly. For the next 2 weeks, I accompanied Shen Nanling to the company every day, attending meetings and reviewing documents, gradually gaining an understanding of the Shen Group's operations. Meanwhile, the private investigator kept sending updates on Shen Zhao and Su Ruoheng's latest activities. After Shen Zhao's credit cards were suspended, he began meeting frequently with Lin Jifeng. Su Ruohang was photographed entering and exiting high-end clubs with different men, including that model friend. The most dramatic part was when the detective captured Shen Zhao waiting outside the hotel for 3 hours, only to see Su Ruohang come out arm in arm with another man. The expression on Shen Zhao's face in the photos could only be described as utter despair. I carefully preserved these materials, waiting for the perfect moment to use them. Right now, there's something more important. My ovulation period has arrived. That night, I deliberately changed into the silk nightgown I bought recently and sprayed Shen Nanlang's favorite perfume. When he pushed open the bedroom door, he visibly froze for a moment. "Is today some special occasion?" he asked, his gaze lingering on me. I walked up to him and helped untie his tie. "The doctor said these few days are the optimal conception period." Shen Nanlang's eyes darkened as he reached out to caress my face. "Are you sure you're ready? Didn't I marry you precisely for this?" I stood on tiptoe and whispered in his ear. Shen Nanlang, though much older, was a considerate partner who made everything thoroughly enjoyable. Moonlight streams through the window like water as I gently caress my abdomen. I hope to succeed in one fell swoop this time. Only with a child can my position in the Shen family be truly secure. A month later, the family doctor confirmed my pregnancy. Shen Nanlang was overjoyed and immediately ordered the nursery to be redecorated, even assigning me a dedicated nutritionist and bodyguard. "I want to host a banquet," he said excitedly, "to announce this wonderful news to everyone." I leaned against his chest. "Whatever you say." The banquet was scheduled for the weekend, with all of the Shen family's relatives and business partners receiving invitations. Su Ruohang reluctantly accompanied Shen Zhao to the event, standing together yet as strangers without any interaction. Midway through the banquet, Shen Nanlang tapped his champagne glass, bringing the room to silence. "Thank you all for coming," he announced, scanning the crowd with a booming voice. "Today, I have joyous news to share. My wife Jiang Manman is pregnant. The Shen family will soon welcome a new generation." Thunderous applause erupted as guests rushed forward to offer congratulations. I stood beside Shen Nanlang, accepting everyone's flattery, but my eyes remained fixed on Shen Zhao in the corner. His face turned deathly pale the moment he heard the news, and the wine glass in his hand fell to the ground with a clink, spilling red wine everywhere. Lin Jifeng quickly pulled him away, but that momentary expression was already deeply imprinted in my mind. Shock, fear, despair, and hatred. Su Ruohang, however, brightened up and quickly walked up to me. "Congratulations, Auntie," she deliberately emphasized the word "and," adding, "I hope it's a healthy baby." "Thank you," I smiled. "Both Nanlang and I hope to have several children. After all, the Shen family has vast properties to manage." Shen Nanlang wrapped his arm around my shoulder. "The doctor said Manman has a unique constitution. It's very likely twins." The guests gasped in surprise once again. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Shen Zhao standing in the distance, his gaze dark and sinister as it fixed on my abdomen. That look sent a chill down my spine, but it was quickly replaced by a sense of satisfaction. After the banquet, Shen Nanlang was pulled aside by several executives to discuss business, while I excused myself, citing early pregnancy discomfort, and returned to my room to rest. Just as I reached the corner of the staircase, a hand suddenly grabbed my wrist and yanked me into the dark, small parlor. Shen Zhao's face looked particularly ferocious in the dim light. "You wretch, did you think getting pregnant would let you rest easy?" I shook off his hand and calmly straightened my sleeves. "Watch your language, Shen Zhao. I'm now carrying the Shen family's heir." "Heir," he sneered. "Who knows if it's not some bastard child? Would you dare say that to your father's face?" I retorted. "Or could it be you're jealous? After all, the doctor said you'd likely never have children of your own." Shen Zhao's pupils constricted sharply. "You, how did you know?" "I know far more than you can imagine." I took a step forward, though shorter in stature. My presence was undiminished. "For instance, your conspiracy with Lin Jifeng to sideline your father, or how Su Ruohang meets that model at the Four Seasons Hotel every Wednesday." Shen Zhao's face paled. "You've been spying on me, just protecting my family." I smiled. "Shen Zhao, accept your fate. From now on, your standing in the Shen family will only decline, but don't worry, as your mother, I'll take good care of you." He was trembling with rage, raising his hand to hit me. I was prepared and quickly stepped back while pressing the play button on my phone. Shen Nanlang's voice came from the speaker. "Manman, where are you?" Shen Zhao's hand froze midair. I shook my phone. "Your father is looking for me. Do you want him to see how you're treating his wife and unborn child?" Shen Zhao gnashed his teeth and lowered his hand. "We'll see about this." Watching his disheveled figure retreat into the distance, I let out a long sigh of relief. "This is just the first round." Shen Zhao. Once the child in my womb is born, your good days will truly be over. Returning to the bedroom, I stood before the floor-to-ceiling window, overlooking the Shen family estate. Under the moonlight, a familiar figure was storming toward the garage. It was Shen Zhao. Minutes later, his sports car roared out through the gates. I gently caressed my still flat abdomen, a cold smirk curling at the corner of my lips. Ms. Jiang, please lie flatter. In the top-tier VIP examination room of Renhe Hospital, cold ultrasound gel was spread across my lower abdomen. Shen Nanlang stood beside the examination bed, his eyes fixed unblinkingly on the ultrasound screen. Mr. Shen, you might need to brace yourself. Director Li, with graying hair, adjusted his glasses. His voice tinged with barely suppressed astonishment. Shen Nanlang's body tensed instantly. What's wrong? Is there a problem with the baby? Director Li didn't answer immediately, instead moving the probe to make the image on the screen clearer. I tilted my head to look. Several small dots were flashing rhythmically on the black and white image. This is, I feigned surprise, covering my mouth, for fetal heartbeats. Director Li's voice trembled slightly. Ms. Jiang is carrying quadruplets. Shen Nanlang suddenly gripped the examination bed railing, his knuckles turning white. F4, yes, for separate gestational sacs, all developing well. Director Li adjusted the image. Look here, here, and here, all 4 heartbeats are strong. I stole a glance at Shen Nanlang's expression, watching as the shock on his face gradually transformed into ecstasy, even bringing tears to the corners of his eyes. The 45-year-old middle-aged man was now overjoyed like a child. Man. He grabbed my hand abruptly. Did you hear that? The Shen family is about to have 4 heirs at once. I nodded with a smile, but inside, I was sneering. In my past life, I only conceived 1 child before Shen Zhao killed me. This lifetime, I'll make the Shen family completely change, replacing that good-for-nothing with 4 healthy children. This is truly a miracle, Director Li exclaimed. The odds of naturally conceiving quadruplets are only 1 in 700,000 ms. Zhang's physique is indeed extraordinary. Shen Nanlang suddenly turned and said to his assistant standing in the corner, contact attorney Zhou immediately. I'm transferring 10% of Shen Corporation's shares to my wife. Get it done today. The assistant froze momentarily before swiftly pulling out his phone. I feigned surprise. Nanlang, this is too valuable. No, this is far from enough, Shen Nanlang said excitedly. You've given the Shen family a future, given me hope. His voice choked up. This was the first time I'd seen this hardened businessman show such raw emotion. After the examination, Shen Nanlang carefully helped me sit up, personally wiping the ultrasound gel from my abdomen as if I were some fragile treasure. Mr. Shen, a quadruplet pregnancy carries higher risks and requires extra caution, Director Li said gravely. I recommend weekly checkups to closely monitor the baby's condition. Of course, Shen Nanlang nodded. I'll arrange for the best medical team to be on standby. 247, stepping out of the examination room, he saw an unexpected figure in the hallway. Shen Zhao, leaning against the wall, his face was as dark as storm clouds gathering before the tempest. What brings you here? Shen Nanlang frowned. Shen Zhao forced a stiff smile. I heard about today's prenatal checkup, so I came to show some concern. For my little siblings. The last few words seemed to be squeezed through clenched teeth. I keenly noticed his right hand gripping the phone tightly, knuckles turning white. Perfect timing, I smiled. Just finished the checkup, and I have good news to share. Shen Nanlang couldn't wait to interject. Man is carrying quadruplets. The Shen family will have 4 children at once. Shen Zhao's expression froze instantly, a flicker of terror flashing through his eyes, followed by deep resentment. He forced a smile. Congratulations. His voice was as dry as sandpaper. By the way, I asked casually, is Shen Zhao here to see Director Li? Shen Zhao stiffened. No, at that moment, a young doctor in a white coat hurried over from the end of the corridor. He visibly froze upon seeing our group, especially when his gaze flickered upon noticing Shen Zhao. Dr. Zhang. I accurately called out his name. In my past life, it was he who helped Shen Zhao forge my false pregnancy with Sacred Constitution certificate. Dr. Zhang's expression changed. You know me. I heard you're an expert in reproductive medicine. I smiled. I happen to have some questions to consult. Could we speak privately? Shen Zhao suddenly interrupted. Dr. Zhang is very busy. Let's do this another day. Just a few minutes, I insisted. While giving a meaningful glance to the bodyguard standing nearby, this bodyguard was newly assigned to me by Shen Nanlang, a retired Special Forces soldier with exceptional skills. Dr. Zhang hesitated and glanced at Xin Zhao, but ultimately followed me to the corridor corner. Xin Zhao wanted to follow, but was stopped by Shen Nanling, who asked about company matters. Dr. Zhang, I lowered my voice. What did Xin Zhao ask you to do today? Dr. Zhang's face turned pale instantly. I don't understand what you mean. Stop pretending, I sneered. He asked you to tamper with the medical report, didn't he? Like fabricating fetal abnormalities, or reducing the number of fetuses. Dr. Zhang's legs began trembling. Madam, I took an envelope from my bag and pulled out photos, taken by a private investigator, showing Dr. Zhang having a secret meeting with Xin Zhao at a cafe. 2 options, I said calmly. First, I hand these over to Mr. Xin. And you'll not only lose your job but may also face legal action. Second, you tell me Xin Zhao's entire plan, and I'll act like nothing ever happened. Dr. Zhang's forehead broke out in cold sweat. Young Master Shen, he told me to mark single fetus developmental disorder on your examination report. He said that way your father wouldn't pay as much attention. Just as I thought, I sneered. What else did he promise you? After the Shen Group's new hospital is completed, make me the department head. Dr. Zhang was almost in tears. Madam, I was momentarily confused. I beg you, now, go tell Mr. Shen the truth, I commanded. Otherwise, I understand. Dr. Zhang nodded repeatedly. When we returned to Shen Nanling's side, Xin Zhao was explaining some project progress. Seeing Dr. Zhang following behind me, his expression instantly turned horrified. Mr. Shen, Dr. Zhang suddenly exclaimed loudly, I have something important to report. Shen Nanling frowned. What is it, young Master Shen? He asked me to falsify Madam's medical report. Dr. Zhang blurted out. He said if I didn't comply, he'd make sure I couldn't survive in the medical field. The corridor fell into a terrifying silence. Shen Nanling's face visibly darkened, while Xin Zhao turned ashen pale. What nonsense are you spouting? Xin Zhao roared, grabbing Dr. Zhang's collar violently. I don't even know you. Enough. Shen Nanling's sharp shout echoed through the corridor, startling several passing nurses who hurried away. We'll discuss this back at the company. He lowered his voice, though the anger remained evident. Dad, let me explain. Xin Zhao panicked. This man is slandering me. It must be Jiang Manman's doing. She's trying to drive a wedge between us. 4. Shen Nanling glared coldly at his son. Oh, then what are these? He snatched the photos from my hand and threw them in Xin Zhao's face. The photos scattered across the floor, clearly showing Xin Zhao's secret meetings with Dr. Zhang. The evidence was irrefutable. Xin Zhao's face turned from pale to ashen, then from ashen to red, finally settling on a despairing deathly pallor. He opened his mouth, but couldn't utter a single word. Return to the company immediately. Shen Nanling's voice was as cold as ice. Attorney Zhou is also there. We need to rediscuss the matter of your shares. Xin Zhaoru was thunderstruck, staggering back a step. Dad, you can't, now. Shen Nanling barked. Xin Zhao finally gave me a resentful glare before staggering away. I timely showed a concerned expression. Nanling, don't be too angry. Xin Zhao might have just had a momentary lapse of judgment. A momentary lapse, Shen Nanling sneered. He was trying to harm my child. He grasped my hand. Man, thank goodness you were alert. Otherwise, I leaned against his shoulder. I just happened to see them together and became more vigilant. As I looked up, I caught Dr. Zhang's relieved expression and smiled faintly at him. Dr. Zhang, thank you for exposing the truth. After the completion of Shen's new hospital, we will consider your position. Dr. Zhang froze, then quickly realized I was fulfilling my promise and repeatedly bowed. Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam. On the way back in the car, Shen Nanling held my hand tightly without letting go. The news of the quadruplets thrilled him beyond measure, while Xin Zhao's betrayal filled him with burning rage. These two extreme emotions intertwined on his face, forming a peculiar expression. Man, he suddenly said, starting today, you must not be left alone for 24 hours. I'll arrange 2 more bodyguards. I feigned surprise. Is that necessary? Xin Zhao is after all your son, precisely because he's my son that I understand him. Shen Nanling's voice carried unprecedented coldness. He's been spoiled since childhood. What he can't obtain, he'd rather destroy. I lowered my head to stroke my flat abdomen, masking the coldness in my eyes. Shen Nanling was right. Xin Zhao was indeed that kind of person. In my past life, when he couldn't have Su Ruoheng, he vented his anger on me and our unborn child. By the way, Shen Nanling changed the subject. Lawyer Zhou has already prepared the equity transfer documents. You just need to sign them this afternoon. I looked up. Tears welling up in my eyes at just the right moment. Nanlang. This is too generous, you deserve it, he said resolutely. The 10% is just the beginning. When the children are born, I'll transfer more shares to your name. His eyes shone with unwavering determination. The future of the Shin family rests on you and the children. The afternoon signing ceremony took place in the company's top-floor conference room. Lawyer Zhou explained the details of the share transfer thoroughly, while Shin Nanlang held my hand the entire time, his face filled with pride. After signing, Shin Nanlang publicly announced, starting today, Ms. Jiang Manman officially becomes a shareholder of Shin Group, holding 10% of the shares, and joins the board of directors. The executives present applauded in congratulations. Only Lin Jifeng's expression remained stiff. His eyes constantly darting towards Shin Zhao in the corner. Shin Zhao stood there, his face as gloomy as the sky before a storm. The documents in his hand crumpled from his grip. After the meeting concluded, Shin Nanlang convened a family gathering. Several key members of the Shin family sat around the long table, the atmosphere so tense you could wring water from it. Considering Shin Zhao's behavior today, Shin Nanlang got straight to the point. I've decided to adjust his position and shares in the company. Shin Zhao abruptly looked up. Dad, we're reclaiming 3% of your 5% shares, leaving you with only 2%. Shin Nanlang said coldly, you'll retain your position as deputy director of the project department, but all major decisions must be signed off by Director Lin. Lin Jifeng visibly froze for a moment, never expecting to be called upon. I sneered inwardly. Shin Nanlang's move was brilliant. Having Shin Zhao's trusted subordinate monitor him, appearing fair while driving a wedge between them. This isn't fair. Shin Zhao slammed the table and stood up. For the sake of one woman, you'd ruin your own son. Watch your words. Shin Nanlang barked sharply. That's your mother, carrying your younger siblings. She's not my mother. Shin Zhao screamed hysterically. She's just a fraud. Who knows whose bastards those children are? As soon as the words fell, Shin Nanlang had already slapped him across the face. With a sharp crack, Shin Zhao's face was knocked to the side, a trickle of blood seeping from the corner of his mouth. Get out. Shin Nanlang's voice was as cold as ice. If I hear such words again, you'll be thrown out of the Shin family. Shin Zhao covered his face, the hatred in his eyes almost materializing. He scanned the room, his gaze finally landing on me, sending chills down my spine. But in an instant, he reverted to being that aggrieved son again. Dad, I was wrong. His voice choked with sobs. I was just afraid of losing your love. Shin Nanlang's expression softened slightly. Seeing this, I immediately interjected softly. Nanlang, the child knows their mistake. Shin Zhao just had a momentary lapse in judgment. After all, suddenly gaining 4 younger siblings would make anyone feel unsettled. While these words seemed to plead for Shin Zhao's sake, each sentence struck a painful chord. Sure enough, Shin Nanlang's expression turned cold again. A 25-year-old acting so immature. Get out. Shin Zhao finally glared at me with resentment before slamming the door and leaving. The meeting ended hastily, with the Shin family members dispersing, each harboring their own thoughts. When I returned home in the evening, Shin Nanlang was still angry, drinking whiskey one glass after another. I walked over with a cup of warm milk and gently held his hand. Stop drinking. It's not good for your health. Shin Nanlang put down his glass, rubbing his temples wearily. Am I too much of a failure to have raised my son like this? It's not your fault. I leaned against his shoulder. Some people are just born, not quite right. Shin Nanlang suddenly looked up. What do you mean? I pretended to hesitate. I shouldn't say. Speak. Shin Nanlang commanded. While tidying up the study last time, I accidentally came across Shin Zhao's medical records. I whispered. The doctor diagnosed him with sociopathic tendencies. Shin Nanlang was thunderstruck. What? How come I didn't know about this? Perhaps his ex-wife hid it to spare you worry. I ventured cautiously. The records were concealed inside the dust jacket of Das Kapital, very well hidden. Shin Nanlang immediately stood up and rushed toward the study. I slowly followed, knowing he would find that meticulously forged medical report. In the previous life, Shin Zhao did indeed have psychological issues, but was never formally diagnosed. In this life, I'll make sure Shin Nanlang sees his son's true nature clearly. The sound of rummaging through drawers came from the study, followed by Shin Nanlang's curses. I stood at the doorway, watching his trembling hands holding that medical report, his face filled with shock and anguish. No wonder he's enjoyed abusing small animals since childhood, Shin Nanlang murmured to himself. I thought it was just typical boyish mischief. I walked over and embraced him. Don't be too upset. It's not too late to know now. We can hire the best psychologist. Shen Nanling shook his head, a resolute glint flashing in his eyes. No, some people are born demons. From today onward, I won't show him any more mercy. I leaned against his chest, a cold smile curling at the corner of my lips. Shen Zhao, your good days are truly over. Late at night, I stood by the bedroom window, watching a sports car roar out of the Shen family's gates. It was Shen Zhao, heading off to vent his anger somewhere again. I gently touched my abdomen, feeling the 4 little lives growing inside. Shen Zhao, this is just the beginning, I whispered into the night. The pain you inflicted on me in our past life, I'll return it to you bit by bit. The phone vibrated with a message from the private detective. Target met secretly with Lin Jifeng at Nightfall Bar. Conversation recorded. Should I send it now? I replied, not yet. Continue surveillance. Putting down the phone, I lay on the bed, sensing subtle changes within my body. 4 tiny lives were thriving inside me. They were my weapons of revenge, and my foundation for standing firm in the Shen family. Shen Zhao, no matter what you're plotting, you can't escape my notice. In this lifetime, I'll watch you walk step by step toward your own destruction. By the 4th month of pregnancy, my belly had visibly swollen, much larger than that of an average expectant mother. The burden of carrying quadruplets often left my back aching, but every time I touched my belly and felt the movements of those 4 little lives, all weariness melted into sweetness. The morning sunlight streamed through the curtains into the bedroom as I leaned against the headboard, flipping through the documents Shen Nanling had left on the nightstand. It was a proposal about Shen Corporation's acquisition of a coastal resort. In my past life, this project caused significant losses to the Shen family due to fraudulent environmental assessments. Working so early, Shen Nanling emerged from the bathroom, water still dripping from his hair. The 45-year-old man maintained an excellent physique, with well-defined abdominal muscles that made it hard to believe he was approaching the age of knowing his destiny. I weighed the documents. There's a problem with this project. Shen Nanling raised an eyebrow and sat on the edge of the bed. How so? This environmental assessment report, I pointed to one page. The data is too perfect, unrealistically perfect. I checked local forums where fishermen reported significantly worsening water quality in recent years, but the report makes no mention of it. Shen Nanling frowned as he took the documents. Environmental matters are Lin Jifeng's responsibility. Director Lin might be too busy to notice the details, I said lightly, actually implying Lin Jifeng's dereliction of duty. In my past life, it was precisely him and Shen Zhao who jointly covered up this issue. Shen Nanling pondered for a moment, then picked up his phone. I'll have a third party re-evaluate it. I smiled without speaking. Since the hospital incident last time, Shen Nanling has grown increasingly trusting of my business instincts. Over the past month, several issues I accidentally discovered have successfully helped the Shen family avoid risks. Now, I've earned the nickname Lucky Star among the board of directors. My phone vibrated with a new message from the private investigator. Target had a heated argument with Su Ruoheng last night. Su Ruoheng left home and is currently staying in room 2806 at the Four Seasons Hotel. Had a male visitor at 2 a.m. I deleted the message, a slight smile playing at the corners of my mouth. The perfect marriage between Shen Zhao and Su Ruoheng finally collapsed. In their past life, Su Ruoheng was the white moonlight in Shen Zhao's heart, but in this life, she became his nightmare. How are you feeling today? Shen Nanling adjusted his suit and leaned down to kiss my forehead. Pretty good. I stroked my belly. It's just that the little ones are too active. They kept kicking me awake last night. Shen Nanling's large hand covered my abdomen, just in time to feel a distinct fetal movement. His eyes instantly softened. So mischievous, just like you. No way, it must be like you, I said coquettishly, so domineering, never giving me a moment's peace. Shen Nanling chuckled softly, kissed me again, and then left, listening to the sound of his footsteps fading away. I picked up my phone and dialed a number. Dr. Lee. This is Jiang Manman. I'd like to reschedule next week's checkup. Yes. Change it to Wednesday at 10 a.m. No, please don't inform anyone else, including Mr. Shen. I want to surprise him. After hanging up, I slowly got out of bed to wash up. In the mirror, though my belly was protruding, my limbs remained slender, and my face glowed with that pregnancy radiance. When I was pregnant with Shen Zhao's child in my past life, I suffered from severe morning sickness, but this time it's surprisingly smooth with hardly any nausea. When I went downstairs for breakfast, the servant's attitude became even more respectful than before. Ever since I became a shareholder of Shen Corporation, even the usually arrogant housekeeper Lin has learned to bow his head. Madam, your freshly squeezed orange juice. He carefully placed the glass in front of me. I nodded in thanks and casually flipped open today's financial newspaper. The front page prominently featured news of Shin Group's successful acquisition of a medical equipment company, accompanied by a photo of Shin Nanlang looking triumphant. This report was supposed to appear a year later, but has now been advanced due to my intervention. While having breakfast, the doorbell rang. Moments later, He rushed in nervously. "Madam, Miss Su. Miss Su's mother is here, asking to see you." I raised an eyebrow. "Show her in, Mrs." Su stormed into the dining room with an angry expression, her well-maintained face filled with fury. "Jiang Manman, what do you mean by this? Why are you spreading rumors to ruin my daughter's reputation?" I wiped my mouth leisurely. "Madam Su, I don't understand what you're talking about. Stop playing dumb." Mother Su slammed the table. "What's the meaning of those photos? Ruahing with different men, those kinds of photos are circulating throughout the entire social circle now." I feigned surprise. "What photos?" "I truly don't know." After a pause, "But, a few days ago, a friend did mention seeing Miss Su at nightfall with a gentleman, being very intimate." I even defended her, saying it must be a misunderstanding. Mother Su's face turned alternately pale and livid. You, Madam Su." My tone turned cold. "What your daughter has done has nothing to do with me. Instead of questioning me, you'd do better to discipline your daughter properly. After all, she's still the Shin family's daughter-in-law." My stepmother was left speechless by my retort. Finally throwing out an angry "we'll see" before slamming the door and leaving, I picked up my phone and sent a message to the private investigator. "The photos were spread well. The final payment has been made." Putting down the phone, I happily finished my orange juice. In her past life, Su Ruahing was a socialite with a chaotic private life that was never exposed. In this lifetime, I'll make Shin Zhao taste the bitterness of being a cuckold, letting everyone know what kind of woman he married. In the afternoon, I went to the headquarters of Shin Corporation as planned. Since getting pregnant, Shin Nanlang specially arranged a private office for me next to the CEO's office, making it convenient for me to rest anytime. Shortly after sitting down, Lin Jifeng knocked and entered, wearing an artificial smile. "Chairman Jiang, here's the environmental assessment for the new project. Please review it." I took the documents and pretended to read through them carefully. This new evaluation is clearly much more rigorous than the previous one. It seems my reminder this morning had an effect. "Well done." I closed the file. "Director Lin has worked hard." Lin Jifeng forced a stiff smile. "It's my duty." He hesitated, then added, "That Shin Zhao hasn't been in good spirits lately. I hope Chairman Jiang won't take it to heart." I raised an eyebrow. Director Lin and Shin Zhao are quite close. Lin Jifeng's forehead beaded with sweat. "Just colleagues." Showing some concern, "Is that so?" I smiled. "Then please convey to him that as his stepmother, I'm deeply concerned about his physical and mental well-being. If he needs a psychiatrist, the Shin family can arrange for the best." Lin Jifeng nodded repeatedly before hastily retreating from the office. I let out a cold laugh and picked up my phone to check the surveillance app. This software was connected to the bugs I had installed in Shin Nanlang's study and Shin Zhao's apartment, a masterpiece from the private detective. Sure enough, half an hour later, Lin Jifeng and Shin Zhao met at a cafe. The bugs clearly transmitted their conversation. "That bitch is getting suspicious." Shin Zhao's voice was filled with resentment. "She must know about the tricks we played with the environmental assessment." "Calm down," Lin Jifeng said in a hushed tone. "The most important thing now is not to alert the enemy. When she goes into labor, I've already made arrangements at the hospital." "Wait even longer," Shin Zhao nearly shouted. "She's already flaunting my father's child in the boardroom. If we wait a few more months, will there even be a place for me in the Shin family?" "Keep your voice down," Lin Jifeng warned. "The plan is set. Accidents in the delivery room are all too common. Massive hemorrhage, amniotic fluid embolism, any one of them could take her life. When the time comes and your father is overcome with grief, who else can he rely on to run the company but you?" My blood ran cold in an instant. In my past life, Shin Zhao only kicked me while drunk, causing a miscarriage, but in this life they actually planned to take my life directly. Forcing myself to stay calm, I continued eavesdropping. "What about those 4 bastards?" Shin Zhao asked through gritted teeth. "Let's solve this together." Lin Jifeng's voice was so cold it didn't sound human. "Premature babies are too fragile. It's normal for accidents to happen." I turned off the surveillance software, my hands instinctively covering my abdomen. Although I had anticipated Shin Zhao's retaliation, I never imagined he could be this vicious. After taking several deep breaths, I dialed the private investigator's number. "I need you to look into a few people." Yes, from the obstetrics department of Renha Hospital. Especially those connected to Li Jifeng. Hanging up the phone, I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the city. The sunlight remains brilliant, pedestrians as insignificant as ants. At this height, everything is under control, including Xin Zhao's murder plan, which he thought was well concealed. Returning home in the evening, Xin Nanling had unusually come back early and was handling documents in the study, carrying a cup of hot milk. I walked in and found him reviewing a medical report. "What is this?" I asked curiously. Xin Nanling quickly closed the file. "Nothing, just routine physical exam reports." He changed the subject. "Were the babies well behaved today?" Pretending not to notice his odd behavior, I smiled and replied, "Quite well, just a little hungry." I stroked my belly. "Nanling, I want to switch to a different hospital for delivery." Xin Nanling frowned. "What's wrong? Isn't Renha the best?" "It is the best." But, I hesitated. I heard several medical staff recently resigned, worrying it might affect service quality, and, I lowered my voice. "I heard Xin Zhao and Lin Jifeng have connections at Renha." Xin Nanling's eyes turned sharp. "What did they do?" "There's no solid evidence." I shook my head. "It's just a gut feeling. Maybe it's just pregnancy anxiety." Xin Nanling pondered for a moment before picking up his phone. "I'll contact my friends in the States to arrange a top-tier obstetrics team. It'll be safer to deliver at home." I leaned against his shoulder. "I'll follow your lead." That's exactly what I wanted. Giving birth at home with full control over the medical team will completely thwart Xin Zhao's scheme. 3 days later, the private investigator sent a comprehensive report. Renha Hospital indeed had 2 medical staff members with financial dealings with Lin Jifeng, including an anesthesiologist and a nurse. More shockingly, the report revealed that Xin Zhao recently purchased a colorless, odorless drug capable of causing postpartum hemorrhage. I printed out the report and locked it in the safe. These will be powerful weapons against Xin Zhao in the future, but now is not the time to expose them. I'll wait until he actually makes his move, then catch him red-handed. Xin Zhao made a rare appearance at the weekend family dinner. Ever since his shares were reduced, he rarely appeared at family gatherings. Today was an exception. He even smiled at me, if that twisted expression could be called a smile. "Aunt Jiang." He deliberately used honorifics. "I heard you changed your medical team." I smiled. "Yes, your father wasn't at ease, so he specially brought in a team from the States." Xin Zhao's lips twitched slightly. "Then, where will the production take place?" "At home," Xin Nanling interjected. "We've already prepared a delivery room, more comfortable and safer than a hospital." I noticed Xin Zhao's hands trembling slightly, but he quickly regained control. "That's wonderful. I'm really looking forward to the birth of my younger siblings." "Thank you for your concern," I said softly. "By the way, why didn't Miss Su come?" Xin Zhao's face darkened instantly. "She isn't feeling well." I feigned concern. "Shall we call the family doctor?" "Pregnant women shouldn't take risks." "Pregnant?" Xin Nanling looked at me in surprise. "Su Ruohang is pregnant." Xin Zhao's face turned deathly pale. "No, that's not. She's just, I heard she went to the gynecology department last week." I said softly, "Thought there might be good news." Xin Nanling frowned. "Xin Zhao, what's really going on?" Cold sweat broke out on Xin Zhao's forehead. "Just, routine checkup." I tactfully changed the subject. All right, let's eat first. Pregnancy topics are making the young ones uncomfortable." Undercurrents surged beneath the dining table. Xin Zhao's gaze kept drifting toward me, filled with venom and fear. He must be worried about the failure of the production plan, and even more terrified that Su Ruohang's scandal would be exposed. After dinner, Xin Nanling was called away by a phone call. I excused myself due to pregnancy fatigue to rest in my room, but was intercepted by Xin Zhao at the staircase corner. "What do you know?" he demanded in a hushed voice, his eyes glinting dangerously. I feigned confusion. "What do you mean?" "Stop playing dumb." He grabbed my wrist abruptly. "About Ruohang, and let go of my wife." The bodyguard's voice came from behind, and the next second Xin Zhao was pinned against the wall, rubbing my wrist. I glared coldly at him. "Xin Zhao, what do you think you're doing? You'll regret this." "Jiang Man," Xin Zhao said through gritted teeth. "I swear, you'll regret this." The bodyguard looked at me, awaiting instructions. I shook my head. "Let him go." "Xin Zhao, I suggest you calm down. Acting on impulse is the devil's work." Xin Zhao straightened his clothes, gave me one last glare, then turned and left. Watching his unsteady retreating figure, I knew he had reached the end of his rope, and a cornered beast is often the most dangerous. Back in the bedroom, I locked the door and retrieved a compact self-defense stun gun from under my pillow, given to me by the private investigator. powerful enough to incapacitate a grown man. Shen Zhao's madness exceeded expectations. I needed to be even more cautious. Outside the window, the setting sun dyed the Shen family estate blood red. I gently caressed my swollen belly, feeling the movements of the 4 little lives inside. Don't be afraid, mommy will protect you, I whispered in promise. No one can harm us. The chessboard of revenge has reached its critical moment. Shen Zhao's killing intent has surfaced, and my counterattack has only just begun. In the early morning when my pregnancy had just reached 32 weeks. A sharp pain jolted me awake from sleep. My hand instinctively reached for my abdomen, and my palm immediately sensed an unusual tightness, contractions, coming fast and intense. Nanlang, I shook my husband awake beside me, my voice trembling with pain. I think the baby's coming. Shen Nanlang snapped awake instantly and pressed the emergency call button by the bed. The entire Shen family estate lit up as bright as day, the alarm startling everyone awake. 2 weeks ahead of the due date, Shen Nanlang helped me get dressed while issuing commands through the intercom. Activate the emergency plan immediately. Contact the medical team. I clenched my teeth. Cold sweat beading on my forehead. Don't be afraid. The American medical team will arrive within 20 minutes. Shen Nanlang picked me up and strode toward the prepared home delivery room. Everything will go smoothly. I gripped his collar tightly, suddenly remembering something. Wait, your phone, bring it. Shen Nanlang was taken aback, but still turned around to grab his phone. I breathed a sigh of relief. In our previous life, he forgot his phone when going out today and missed an important call, causing massive losses for the company. In this life, I must ensure he can always answer that call. The delivery room was fully prepared, with suitable temperature and complete equipment. It looked no different from a high-end hospital's delivery room. Shen Nanlang carefully placed me on the bed,